Greed has poisoned men's souls.
Either you're with us, or you're with the enemy.
Has barricaded the world with hate.
We need to build a wall.
Has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed.
We came, we saw, we died.
Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want.
The Japanese government reported cooling problems at the Fukushima Daiichi plant.
Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
I pay taxes, bitch. That's why it's my problem.
We think too much and feel too little.
A study suggesting there's a surge in the amount of antipsychotic drugs prescribed to teens and young adults.
More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost.
A 90-year-old World War II veteran has been arrested in Florida for feeding homeless people.
The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture.
We waterboarded, that helped us. We wiretapped without warrants, that helped us. We invaded a foreign country, that helped us.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.
The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one yet. Pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself, and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'll be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Gio.
Good evening, everyone.
And we have an incredible impromptu show for you once again. I want everybody in the chat room, though, to let me know if the audio is sounding clear, because Mrs. Bastet decided to get on my mixer, completely screwed my settings up, and I didn't save them into the mixer, so we just had to throw something together last minute when we realized this. However, our dear friend Mark Sargent will be joining us here in just a few moments. We did a show just the other day about the topic and keyword that will remain unspoken. I don't think we can get through this show without actually saying it.
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think that's
But we were talking about his new book, The End of the World. And you know what? It is the end of the world as we know it. And quite frankly, I feel fine. So I don't know what the big fuss is about, but obviously there's a lot of fuss going on. Mm-hmm. But there's been a lot of huge just a reception of this topic here tonight. I guess we might as well just say it, because it's going to come up in the show many times tonight. Yeah. But it's one that YouTube likes to censor, which is, I'm looking at Mark's background that says Google Flat Earth Clues. And I'm like, it seems paradoxical at this point, because Google is suppressing that keyword. However, Mark has been a really good friend of mine. I talked on the last show about how when I first watched Flat Earth Clues, I called him, and he actually called me back, and I was so excited. And we were on our boat, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Mark Sargent. And we're like, rocking back and forth on the waves, and I'm talking to him like I'm in the studio and all professional and everything. And we're rocking back and forth and back and forth. So it was good times. But Mark has a thing that he's doing tomorrow in London. They've been flying him all over the place. He's been doing interviews literally everywhere. He was just featured on Jimmy Kimmel as well. which I thought was great. And they trolled him, of course, and they trolled for the whole flat Earth idea. However, at least Jimmy had the courtesy to reveal at the end that the troll that they had sent into the conference was one of his people. At least you gotta, that counts for something. However, the name is getting out there. The idea is getting out there. And more people are picking up on this idea. Flat Earth clues, end of the world as we know it. So we'll bring Mark here on in just a second. Anything for Mrs. Gio?
I think it's great that it's starting to catch on with the general public. I think that's a really good clue that things are starting to change in the consciousness of humanity as a whole. Even if you don't agree with the flat Earth concept, you can still see the value of thinking outside of the box, outside of the sphere, as it were, being able to see beyond that.
What prompted this show was, of course, we did that show about the book a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
But then our guest yesterday, Thanuj.
Thanuj.
Is that right?
Thanuj.
Okay, because he's in the chat room now.
Oh.
He brought up flat Earth as well, and I said, okay, well, cool. And I just happened to connect with Mark tonight, and we said, hey, let's go ahead and do it. So let's do it.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges, create happiness, and bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together, and that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise, follow your conductors, and fear no danger as you step beyond the veil.
Glowbusters is in the house. What is up,
Hey.
Bob? And probably just Bob, not Jaron. But we need to talk to Jaron again. But tonight, I want to get a little bit into the topic of flat Earth, but more so, I want to just kind of catch up with Mark about what's been going on in the flat Earth community and all things that are flat Earth clues. And so I'm going to assume that the majority of the audience that's watching this video is already up to speed with everything that has to do with the topic, even though we may get into some of the details of the topic as well. But without any further ado, Mark, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys
Awesome.
very much for having me.
Excellent.
Thank you for coming on last minute like this. What's going on tomorrow? You mentioned you were flying out to London. Am I not supposed to say anything about that? Because I already have cats out of the bag.
Yeah. It was very, very last minute. So it is okay. I don't know much about British television. It is called Good Morning. You guys can look this up. Good Morning with Philip and Holly. But one of the premier, if not the biggest morning show in the UK. They just recently watched Behind the Curve and were very, very excited. And so they called me up and said, hey, how would you like to come out on short notice? Like, oh, would I? And how?
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I'm bouncing off of Iceland tomorrow afternoon and heading into London, which of course is super fun because I was just there for the UK conference and part of the UK Globali tour, the big tour bus that was doing their thing over there. And that was fun. And so, so it's going to be Tuesday morning, 9, probably more like 10 a.m. UK time. So it's in the middle of the night here, but it's okay. It'll get put up on YouTube. So excellent. I know. So they're flying me in. I'm there for 2 nights, and I think I've got 10 minutes of screen time.
Oh,
so excited.
Wow.
But still,
it's worth it.
I mean,
yeah.
Oh no,
I have to be frank. Back when I first talked to you, I had no idea that this was going to go as far as it has. I'm just amazed that it has.
We're thrilled,
I was thinking, wow, okay, this is really interesting, and that's that. And, but then, I've been watching you just literally everywhere. Coast to Coast, Clyde Lewis, on several shows here, recently on Jimmy Kimmel as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, Lord. That was okay. So that was the big Dallas International Conference, which we just did back in November. And what had happened was we tried to make it to where it wasn't going to be a repeat of the whole Logan Paul Denver thing that happened in 2018.
I'm not familiar with that. Yeah, give us some background on that.
Oh, okay. So in 2018, Logan Paul was going to attend the conference, and he made the promoter, Robbie Davidson, keep it an absolute secret. And Robbie, I will say this, the man can keep a secret. He told no one, but he let it that there was going to be some super VIP celebrity. And I was like, all right, who's this guy? And we didn't know literally until the night before. And when I found out, I freaking lost my mind because, Logan Paul is just this internet troll and his demographic is 8th graders. Now, look, I don't really care about I don't care about the demographics so much, but the guy's horrible. He brought his whole entourage and they were all in on it. And the cover story was that his best friend was a flat earther and he was flat curious. So
I didn't know that was the thing, flat curious.
Yeah,
that's good.
And I thought, okay, there's no way he's never made a serious video in his life, and it's like, there's no way. And so I was in complete denial, and I said, if he's actually here when I get up in the morning, if he's actually here, I'm gone. I'm on a plane out of here. And literally he was. I was like, see ya. And I got on a plane and went to Denver, or went back to Seattle, and that was it. People were mad at me, and people were doubling down, saying, no, he's going to make a complete serious video. And you can look at it. It's on YouTube. It's got millions of hits, and he spent an entire hour just trolling us horribly. I was completely vindicated, which was wonderful. It was super, super great. So that was the 2018 conference. So we didn't want a repeat of that. And so when Jimmy Kimmel's team contacted us and said, yeah, we're coming to the conference. Jimmy wasn't going to come, but he was going to send some people. I was like, oh, okay, sure. Why not? He was upfront about it. There was lots of people at like the Raleigh conference and the Denver conference that didn't even, they just showed up. So there was a 4-man team that showed up, 4-man film team, which was great. They had ABC credentials, the whole 9 yards. What we didn't know was one of his writers, and his name is, it's Tony something. Well, he's got an alias, and his alias is Jake Bird. He dressed up as probably the most eccentric flat earther you could think of. Put himself in a fake leg cast, from the knee, like a knee with a roller on it, and was just acting extremely wild and eccentric. And in fact, in my speech that day, he was the first question, because I do a short little Q&A after my speech. And so he came up and asked the first question. He was just all over the place. And then afterwards, I was being interviewed by different people, and he kept butting in. He kept butting in, and I saw that he was butting in other people's things. Anyway, the point was he acted so over the top that we figured out who he was eventually and kicked the whole team out. Because once we figured out who he was with, it's like, oh, okay, well, you guys are in this together. So, they spent thousands of dollars to come out there. And they could have, they didn't play it smart. So, yeah, there it is. Jake Bird, otherwise known as, in fact, I could look it up real quick for you. I'll tell you.
I was watching this taking place, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? Flat earthers, they don't typically, I think we're having Skype issues. Oh, there we go.
What, are we having connection issues?
Yeah, I lost you for a second,
okay. So,
but you're good now. Go ahead.
Sorry. So that's my fault because I was looking up something. So his real name is Tony Barbieri. You can look him on Wikipedia. Anthony, in fact, his real name's Anthony J. Barbieri from Farmingham, Massachusetts. And he goes by an alias Jake Bird. He shows up at like Trump rallies and stuff like that. So that's what they did. And we didn't think they were going to release anything because we argued and they were not on the best behavior. And then 6 weeks later, all of a sudden, Jimmy Kimmel Live YouTube channel. Well, I mean, he did live on his show. It was part of his monologue. It was a 9-minute skit. That's long. That was a long skit. And I knew full well, because I knew when they kicked him out, it was like, well, holy smokes, if we kicked him out at the 90-minute mark, the only person they even talked to was me. So that's who they used. And but in fact, here's funny thing that you got a hold of me. You know who wrote me this morning?
Who?
Jake Bird. That guy.
Did he really?
Oh, really? Wow.
What did he say?
Okay, so, and it's weird. His email address, I won't give it out, but it's Jake Bird and then the year he was born, which seems to match up, at outlook.com. He goes, do you still have the gross round earth? I likes the pretty one better. When is the next convention? Do you have a date and time and location? You will be there so we can chat again. We need a chat about pretty flat earth, not the gross one. P.S. You're awesome. Stay flat, 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 and then about another 15 more flats.
Wow.
Well,
so
that's pretty cool.
Well, I guess, but I mean, he's doing it in character.
Yeah.
Right. He's not even giving out his real name. So I wrote back and I said, "Hi, Tony. I liked your bit. Quick on your feet. If you would have toned it down a little, no one would have been the wiser and your team could have stayed all day. Maybe you've gotten some interesting footage, especially since FE members hit the hotel bars at night. Honestly,
that would have been even better. Yeah.
Absolutely true. It's like, dude, it's like, what a blown opportunity. It's
right.
Like, all you have to do is stay till 1 a.m. You know what the footage you could have gotten at 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, honestly, your outfit wasn't the strangest I'd seen in Dallas. The next big American conference is in Vegas, probably October. We'll announce in the spring. Next European one is in Italy in March. If it was me, I'd come as you and just talk with people. You'll get good material. Just a thought. Oh, and tell Jimmy I'm on to his FE crush. Flat Earth crush. I don't know. I'm not supposed to say it. Here's why. He's brought it up. Jimmy Kimmel has brought it up 5 times that I know of. With Kyrie Irving, Shaquille O'Neal, Dave Chappelle, Jimmy Fallon, and then finally during the monologue.
Well, you know what separates him from the other people that trolled you and that you ended up leaving and all of that was the fact that they were upfront about it. They just let you know right off the bat, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to send people and all that. And I'll bet you that is a lot better of a method to you personally. You know, it's much less offensive to you. And then also the fact that he's mentioned it so many times, along with the fact that this Tony guy, whether he's in character or not, the fact that they're paying attention to it and it seems like they're interested that's a great thing. I think.
I know. As you know, and some people will disagree with me that any publicity is good publicity.
Right.
But that is absolutely true. Or actually, the original saying is a little more off, which is even bad publicity is free. And that's really what we're talking about here. I mean, come on. You know how many people would love to be a part of Jimmy Kimmel's monologue? And he gave us 9 minutes, a dedicated 9-minute skit. I mean, for you, it's wonderful.
That's huge. I mean,
it's monstrous.
Yeah.
Follow that by, and so anyway, so sorry, I know I'm rambling a lot, but I'm not going to knock it. And so yeah, Jimmy Kimmel's all over this. He will not let it die. He's sort of like Joe Rogan in that capacity, where Joe Rogan just loves bringing it up to guests because he knows it triggers people. And Jimmy Kimmel. It's true. And I think Jimmy Kimmel's realized after he went through Kyrie and Shaquille O'Neal and Dave Chappelle, he was like, oh, you know what? I'm pretty comfortable with this. So he worked it into his monologue. It would not surprise me after I wrote back the writer, would not surprise me if they contacted me directly. And if they brought me on the show, God, of course they're going to make fun of me. Of course they're going to, because it's a comedy show, of course. But if it happens, great, wonderful. I'd do it. I wouldn't even hesitate.
Wow. That is incredible. I mean, what I brought up on the last show was if there wasn't anything to it, they would just kind of ignore it. But there seems to be this concerted effort here, and it's just leading me more towards some kind of cover up or something like that, because you take something and ridicule it. The other one that I mentioned was Andy Bishago. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's the time traveler. That he's an attorney first and foremost, very serious attorney. Oh, wow. But then he claims to be a time traveler and part of a Project Pegasus and Project Mars from when he was a child. They would transport him through a teleporting system, and he said Barack Obama was part of it. Barack Obama came out and said, I'm not part of any kind of time travel program. I've never been to Mars. I'm like popular
The fact that he said
conspiracies out there. And I'm like, well, you don't acknowledge something silly, something he's saying about you. You acknowledge something if there's some truth to it.
Right.
So all these people acknowledging it is making me go, Some people are just doing it for hits, though. There's a guy who keeps coming up on my feed. I don't know how he keeps coming up on my feed. This guy named Sci-Fi Dan. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Sci-Man Dan.
Sci-Man Dan, yeah. Sci-Fi Dan. Freudian slip there.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware. He came on the scene a while ago. He's probably the #1 dedicated troll against Flat Earth. He buys some of his subs, he buys some of his hits, his numbers are inflated, but he does have a lot of people that watch him because there's something I've been looking for, and he's not the guy. Science doesn't really have a champion to go against Flat Earth. In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson released another video this morning against us, where he won't even really say our name if he can help it. He really doesn't like saying the term, but Simon Dan is the closest thing they've got right now, and he releases a video every Friday.
He's very posh in his delivery of debunking Flat Earth. I'm so much more intelligent than these people. You want to know what's funny though? Is I haven't really been watching any Flat Earth videos, but Sci-Fi Dan's guy, his videos come out, and then I come across the video, and I'm like, oh shit, that's actually pretty interesting. Watching the stuff he's debunking.
Right.
Like, oh, I didn't know Jaron released that. Oh, that's cool. I got to go check out the video.
Yeah. He's written me several times. I have never, entertained talking to him in any capacity. I mean, he's just he's just helping our metrics. We talked about this years ago. It's like, look, every time you make an anti-flat Earth video, you're shooting wooden arrows into a bonfire. From the outside, it seems like you're doing something. There's a lot of activity happening, but you're just adding wood to the fire. That's all you're doing. You're just helping our metrics. I mean, YouTube has, and we can get into this later if you want. I mean, YouTube has tried to tone things down. The fact that we were mentioned in a little Senate subcommittee meeting on television, which just blows my mind.
Were you really?
Really?
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah, you didn't know about that?
No, I really haven't been keeping up with the community.
Oh my God,
yeah.
There's so much stuff that's happened. It just gets bigger and weirder. There was a point where last year we were on. It was actually the beginning of the year last year, where Google, because Google owns YouTube, they were talking with a Senate subcommittee about how to deal with fake news. Oh. And during this whole fake news thing, they were going over three things. False flag videos, snake oil stuff, for cures, and flat Earth. Now,
I remember that. Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, I think I remember
because I remember I typed in flat Earth into YouTube, nothing. Yep. Nothing. That I think actually, now that you mention it, I think that Logan Paul or whatever that guy, his videos were coming up, and it was all just anti videos.
Yeah.
There was nothing anymore.
Debunking videos. Yeah.
Yeah, the hardcore Flat Earth members, it's tough. If you're a new Flat Earth channel, you're trying to break into the rankings, it's tough. Well, I mean, because the established channels, all the verified channels, they're everywhere. I mean, there's so many of everybody's gotten into it. But even the pro Flat Earth channel, people that have made massive videos for us, like, Shane Dawson, for example, big YouTuber, millions and millions and millions of subs. He's not in the top 50, which is, I think, really, really strange. Anyway, so they said, okay, we're gonna deal with snake oil. We're gonna deal with false flag stuff, but the flat Earth thing, we're just not going to recommend as much. Meaning, YouTube has promoted us nonstop for the first 3 years, and we were making them a lot of money. I mean, we were the binge watch topic out there. We were getting recommended for everything. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. It's like, do a search for tractor maintenance. Oh, here's 4 flat Earth videos for you. Potato salad recipe, 3 more flat Earth videos.
Well, that's true. Let me say this real quick. The most viral videos that we've had is number 1, the Alex Jones DMT remix that we did, but number 2, flat Earth videos. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got some on our channel with close to 1 million views, and we don't see any of our other videos like that. So yeah.
And the word got out. It's like, you want extra hits on your video or extra metrics, make a flat Earth video. It doesn't matter what your topic is. And so we started seeing all these different channels. Now they'd only make 1 or 2, because what are you going to do? But what was interesting, it wasn't just the hits and the subs that increased. What the big thing in the metrics was the number of comments. The number of comments on any Flat Earth video go up by 500%, because, for the obvious reason, and that is people just tear each other to shreds in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're in a flat earth, you're an idiot, so are you, religion, politics, blah, blah, blah. It just goes on and on and on. It never ends. But yeah, it's still, well, let me segue real quick into, it was trending so much in 2019 that when Amazon did their Super Bowl commercial this year, that of all the top, they only picked a few topics, and we were one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a paltry 61 million hits right now on that commercial. And of course, Amazon, because they've got such muscle in media, it's because it's embedded they can embed it everywhere. They've got tons and tons of hits right away, which was wonderful. Just love it.
Well, I mean, considering that there's basically this huge shadow ban over the topic and all of that, I mean, it seems like they shadow ban the topic and then they put you on mainstream media so the whole world can see it. And right. it seems kind of counterproductive. I mean, I guess maybe they're trying to control the narrative at that point, so they only hear what they're putting out there instead of what you're actually putting out there.
It kind of feels like, and I've said this for a long time now, it was kind of like when, and I don't know if you remember when YouTube tore down the scoreboard, which was, and there's actually an episode on TFR, which I did back, middle of 2018. So we were tracking the numbers. So in any internet search engine, there is search results, right? You see it's like search results equals a number. Potato salad equals 2.4 million or whatever it is. And YouTube, same thing. There was search results equals a number. And our numbers in the beginning of 2015 were, I think, 50,000 search results, relevant to descriptions and content and all that, 50,000. That number kept ratcheting up really, 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 really quickly to where we were pushing around 14 million by the end of 2017. Give or take, right? Maybe even before that, maybe the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And so where they hid it, they changed they changed it to where you could not see that search number until you searched and used the filter by upload date. Bob from Globebusters, the one pointed out, I was going, oh my God, all the numbers are gone. He's like, no, they're still there by upload date. So that's all I did was look by upload date. So I kept tracking them, and we were crushing things. I people like PewDiePie, there's nobody, he just buys tons of subs. Relevant search results, he never ever broke 6 million at the time. What I was most interested were the heavy hitters above us, like Lady Gaga. She was capping out at about 15 million. We blew her away by the beginning of 2018. Wow. And the person that I really wanted was Donald Trump. So, and he was always like 400,000, 500,000 ahead of us. And I thought, it's going to be, it's at least like till Christmas before we catch this guy. Cause that's a logical thing, is what you wish for. We're going to catch him. Middle of the summer, somebody called me up and they said, oh my God, we caught him. It's like, really? We were at 20.9 and he was at 20.8 million. In the middle of 2018, and I was so excited. And you can see it. There's a TFR video that literally says, "Flat Earth catches the president of the United States."
Nice,
wonderful. And it's like, yeah. Well, some of the nerds who keep track of stats at the higher levels, the uber dark web nerds, apparently they didn't like that very much. So within a couple weeks, all of a sudden I get another message that said, by the way, scoreboard's down. I go, what do you mean it's down? I go, you mean the numbers are stunted? And they go, no, dude, it's gone. So meaning the entire line, search results equals a number, had been erased from YouTube entirely. Oh, yeah. And people were saying, and I was going, oh my God, we've been, that stupid cheer in high school. We got more. Look at the score. We got more. we were pointing at it so much that somebody, and I know exactly how they are. I was in the tech field for years and years. I know exactly what this nerd argument turned into. You're sitting at the table. It's like, okay, how can we stunt these numbers? We multiply it by a fraction. Is it a sliding scale? Is it going to, how are we going to do it? And then somebody at the end of the table is like, why don't we just get rid of it? Let's just pull it entirely. And all of a sudden it's like, can we do that? It's like, yeah. Who's going to care? And they did. It was pulled. And people say, it's delusional. It wasn't because of flat Earth. It's like, oh no, then what? Why? It's Internet 101. Search results 101 is that. And
I think I know what you're talking about. This is the Google AdWords.
No, not even AdWords. So if you go into Google right now and you type in any topic, you'll see search results equals a number. That same sort of that algorithm still would apply to YouTube, and it was there for years, for the better part of 12 years. It was there. Whenever YouTube fired up, it is basic internet technology, and it is now gone forever.
Wow.
Because we broke it. So you're welcome, anyone out there. We screwed up. Well, they didn't want us. It was to your point, what you were saying. They're trying to. It's not that they're hitting the brakes on us. I've never seen a channel. None of the speakers' channels have been taken down. I've never been under threat of being taken down. It's not that they're hitting the brakes, but they're taking the foot off the gas. There's a timing issue here, and I don't know what it is. It's part of my job to stare across the chessboard and go, "What are you guys doing?" They're slowing it. They're trying to curb our enthusiasm for something else. It's almost like they're pacing us. So, but you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, they curb us in one sense, and all of a sudden, oh, here's a major media thing, and it's like, okay, stunt, and another big media thing. So, I mean, if they wanted to stop us, why let us get that many YouTube hits in the first place?
Right. The only thing that I can think of is they want to control the narrative. So they have control of the keyword.
Absolutely. The at the very least control the timing. Yes, but you're absolutely right. Control the narrative. Yeah. And so, but to what end? What's the end game here? I'm so curious.
Well, I think you guys are onto something huge. I mean, calling out the NASA bullshit in and of itself. Let's say everything else is speculation. The NASA thing, you can't deny. There are billions upon billions of dollars being funneled through NASA. NASA was always part of the DoD. Black projects get financed through that. So you can make a bunch of money disappear through NASA. You're basically blowing the lid off of that.
Yeah, but and again, I still think there's something else to it though, because remember, NASA is one of those too big to fail type deals.
Yeah,
like AIG, you can't just shut down. I mean, I suppose you could, but there's a lot of jobs tied to NASA, and there's a lot of military contractors that are tied to NASA. You're talking about a class action lawsuit that would be, again, too big to fail. You couldn't let that happen. So again, the narrative is they're letting things go slowly but surely, and then every once in a while, what kind of reminds me of? You remember The Incredibles? When the first Incredibles, where Dash was running at the end, he was doing that track race, and his dad was going, no, too fast, right? And he's slowing down. So no, get it. He wanted him to place second or third. So Dash was all over the freaking track. That's what it kind of feels like, where we have these slow parts. It's oh, why is nothing happening? And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. All this stuff. Jimmy Kimmel, I thought the January was going to be really, really slow. And then Jimmy Kimmel hits. And then the Super Bowl hits. And then all of a sudden we're doing a Britain thing. And the Italian conference just came out of nowhere, which is great. And everyone's starting to already think about the big conference for this year.
Well, I remember the first conference was back in 2015, 2016?
2017.
2017, that's it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking...
that was a documentary, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing. I was thinking to myself, there's who's going to go? How are you going to get people to fly across the world and, this and that? And you guys packed it up in 2 hours or something like that. It just sold out immediately. And I was sitting back going, wow, this is incredible.
And even the media, a lot of people don't know that when media show up, they usually send a recon team, one guy. Usually they'll send out to see if it's real. Mm-hmm. It's if it's worth sending a team. And I remember, the recon guys on the phone immediately during that first day going, yeah, you got to send some people right now. And by the next day, we had all these camera teams, and I remember I was wearing 3 hot mics simultaneously. I honestly did not know who I was talking to at any given point. It just got nutty, and the same sort of thing happened in Dallas. I mean, this thing won't. It just keeps getting bigger and weirder to where, as if mainstream, once it starts, the big thing was once Netflix came out with, once this documentary hit Netflix, it gave media an excuse to talk about it. So beforehand, you had to dig up flat earthers. You had to go find, you had to seek them out. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk to these weirdos. Now, all you had to do is review a movie and do a follow-up on the movie. The thing with London. I mean, they had just watched it. And, you know, a little late to the game. It's like, well, where have you guys been? This movie's been out for a while. But because it's not, there's nothing in the movie that kind of dates it. People think it's like it happened yesterday. So there's all these people that are watching the movie for the first time going, oh my God, you know, is this a real thing? It's like, yeah, that was shot like 2 pushing 3 years ago in some cases. But it's fine. No.
It's amazing, and you know I'm so honored to have you guys on TFR because you know we've been with you through the whole journey, and you've helped us elevate, and you know hopefully we helped you as well, and you know it's all been kind of all working together. It's amazing. I'm so glad that that we made that move with the station and did that.
Oh. No, again, that's why I had you guys were very brave when you did that. That's why I put you in the book.
You mentioned that. I mean, we caught a lot of shit for it, but you know what? It was all a bunch of shit from assholes. I mean, that's the only way that I can put it. All these people were saying, oh, it's going to be divisive. Well, you're the ones causing the division. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Well,
and I remember telling the story, I don't know if it was in the book, about when the screen tests. When people don't remember going all the way back. I'll give you, anyone's listening, to let you know how far back Chris and Cherie go. True Television, who was way ahead of this. You know, there was a wonderful producer out at True Television back in 2015. Her name was Rebecca Shankula, and she contacted me. They were out in New York, and she contacted me. She goes, this, something's going to happen with this. She goes, I can feel it. And she, you know, who knows? Maybe she was just a producer with lofty ideas. She goes, we need to make a freaking sizzle reel now. She goes, I need people. And so like we were grabbing all sorts of people to talk to. And I remember, and Jaron, yeah, I kid him, but it's true. I know he didn't want to, but he should have just said something. Was, you know, they set him up. I go, yeah, Jaron and Missa would be perfect for this, right? And Jaron and Missa like missed 5 screen tests in a row. And to where they called me up, they said, look, we need a couple. And I didn't know. Very few couples. I knew you guys though. It's like, what?
I remember that.
They actually put flat earth, you know, programs on their station. I go, she goes, wonderful, great. And what? Here's the part. So you guys were actually part of a sizzle reel that got her fired.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. What happened was she made this sizzle reel with all sorts of different people, you know, anyone we could come up with at the time. Patricia wasn't even around. It shows you how early it was. And she takes, you know, you can imagine like a producer's board meeting, right? She shows it to them. It's like, yeah, what do you think? Flat Earth. You know, ta-da, right? And they're going, yeah, we got to fire her like now.
Yeah,
she was gone.
I reached out to her a little bit later because we did the whole ayahuasca and the pyramid thing, and I was touching bases with her. Yeah, that didn't work out very well, and I'm no longer with the company. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
The world was not ready for a Flat Earth reality. And that's what they're talking about. They want to do a Flat Earth reality show. And so vindication was hers, because just recently after the documentary hit Netflix, in fact, it was definitely in 2019, the woman who fired her from True Television contacted her and said, yeah, well, turns out you were kind of right about the full flag. And she's like going, yeah, thanks. So she's now in LA. I think she's starting up the whole thing, and she's getting pumped. She still wants to be a part of it. I know she was writing a book. She and I met at the I think it was the Raleigh. It was the Raleigh conference. She and I met up at the Raleigh conference. She would like be lurking in the shadows at different big Flat Earth events, because she knew full well, and so she was trying to make herself feel better and yet trying to still stay on top of it. So if something big happens in Hollywood, I'm sure she will be tied to it in some way. So there you go.
Excellent.
But yeah, you guys have been around for forever.
We have,
this.
and we've just kind of been watching from the sidelines, and I've kind of moved on to like kind of simulated reality kind of stuff. However, as I said on the last show, I think this is a pivotal step to questioning the entire nature of reality. Because had I not taken this step, I would never be thinking in the dynamics like, what's NASA doing? Are these photos even real? And like I said on the last show, I never even bothered to ask the question. And it's not like they're hiding it. It's not like they're saying, hey, these photos are real. It's just nobody's asking the questions.
Right.
It's very clear. These are satellite composites, but nobody's asking the questions.
Absolutely. And in fact, part of my 2019 speech, and let me see if I can drop it into, I'll drop it into Skype for you, and it's up to you if you want to do anything with it. I took like a random Apollo 12 shot, and I throw it up on screen when I talk to people, and we can get into simulated stuff in a second. Yeah, Apollo 12. And I say, look, I can see, I show this to anybody. And this is one of 1,000 different images that NASA has. I go, there's at least 6 things wrong with this photo. And this is, HD, you can zoom in, all sorts of stuff. This is what they published, right? This is what they say. This is actual moon footage. And it's like, there's so many things wrong. And so I asked the audience, I go, start yelling it out. I go, tell me what you think's wrong. And the first thing, of course, they yell is they say no stars. And that one's not going to do anything for anybody because people, it's an exposure setting and you can't see the stars. It's like, okay, well, how about the fact that shadows can only go in one direction if the light source is really, really far away and there's only one of them, and yet the shadows this one go in 4 directions? They're all going, you can tell where the hot spot is. And it's right over the top of that guy's head. The only way the shadows could even be there is in those directions is if the light source was really, really close. Like a giant stage spotlight, which was maybe 30, 40 yards away, tops. Oh, no blast crater underneath the thrust nozzle. The fact that the whole, lander capsule looks like a homeless tweaker shelter. That the dish. Oh, the dish is one of my favorites because that's an engineering thing. That little satellite dish there. We looked it up. It's not secret classified technologies. This is VHF technology going all the way back from 1969. That thing on a good day has a range of maybe 50 miles. Maybe. And it's battery powered, right? And you're telling me 50 miles, and yet they're going to say, oh no, 250,000 miles with 10 frames a second video, color, and 2-way communication, back and forth, audio communication. How in the world, again, because most of us aren't, we don't grow up on engineering. I didn't know anything about engineering. I've had to relearn so many different freaking topics going into this. The spacesuit doesn't make any sense. Law of thermodynamics, a spacesuit cannot be like that. A soft spacesuit would turn into a parade float, and these guys would just roll over on their backs and die. Their gloves would turn into oven mitts. They'd be completely useless. Oh my God, there's so many little things.
It looks like it's thrown together with tinfoil and duct tape. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, and you know what's funny is we typically don't ask these questions. We just kind of accept it. And then when we start asking the questions, the ridiculousness really stands out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's just one photo. I go, look, there's too many things wrong. The photo, the Apollo footage did not age well at all. I mean, the video is even worse. The fact that, they makes them look like they're in slow motion. It's like, why would they be in slow motion? They weigh, 180-pound man would weigh 30 pounds if what you're telling me is true. They'd be moving really, really quickly all the time. It would be like, what was that movie where the guy was on Mars and he was jumping, these huge distances. I mean, these guys white man can't jump. These guys had a vertical leap of maybe a foot, and that was with the wire harnesses. Ridiculous.
Wow.
Absolutely ridiculous. 180 pound. If they weighed 30 pounds, they would be freaking flying. These guys were in amazing shape, and I don't want to get into it.
Well, during the live broadcast, they didn't allow the cameras to hook up directly to the feed. What they did, from what I understand, is they made the cameras point towards a regular tube television and film that projection.
Yep. It was second generation. As a matter of fact, I have a trivia behind that. The networks were furious. They're like, what do you mean we can't get a direct feed? Any producer would be like, what, we want a direct feed. It's like, no, you have to come to NASA. You have to come to Mission Control. And they had like a projection screen, up on the wall. You have to use your cameras and shoot that. It's like, what? Do you know what the degradation we're going to get from that? This thing, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be, it's going to be the some of the worst broadcast ever. And that's what they did. As a matter of fact, that was the inspiration behind the movie Capricorn 1. That was the inspiration. The CBS affiliate, when he was watching the footage, the feed, second generation feed, is going, this is horrible. He goes, I could make a better moon mission. You know what? I could make a better Mars mission than these guys did. And he didn't even think it was fake. He just said he could do it. And he did. He went out and he did it. And that iconic scene, where they have the rover, on a red Marsy surface background with the astronaut standing next to it. It's perfect, which is why in the clues, no one had made a moon movie literally up until the obligatory First Man, which came out, was that last year? Yeah, it was last year. The First Man with Ryan Gosling, which is interesting. It was a Canadian director and a Canadian lead man, and it did not get much press. It was very, very low key. It's like, oh yeah, here's the moon movie. Everybody forget about it.
Well, here's a coincidence. So, they're saying in a couple of years they're going to retire the ISS. All of a sudden, it's supposed to fall over some ocean or something like that. Now, it's funny that now that we have this whole community pointing out all the anomalies within the ISS, they come in and say, "Okay, well, it's time to retire it now."
Right.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, you're phasing out NASA it's amazing how, again, the general public, and me included, I mean, we miss so many things because if you don't talk about it, it's not on our radar. We have so many different distractions that, like, for example, most people don't even know we don't have space shuttles anymore. We haven't had space shuttles for years. We retired the space shuttle
Supposedly
program.
Obama retired them, right?
Oh, yeah. They've been gone. I mean, they've been gone for a while. Look it up. And it's a question. It's like, well, shouldn't the budget be smaller if we don't have any space shuttles anymore? Or the fact that we haven't launched or recovered rockets on American soil. We don't even land them in the water anymore. We land them in Russian airspace because they can control it. We're paranoid about the new social media and high-speed networks, and 6 billion smartphones. We're paranoid about people figuring things out. And so they're not going to allow it. But yeah, the ISS closing down, even if they close down tomorrow, it's not going to make a difference. We've dissected the footage so many different ways. In fact, I tell the common question I get is, it's like, well, you can track the ISS, and is there something up there? Yeah, sure. There's something up there. Are there people on it? No. Here's why: the interior production value is horrible. I mean, it's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. Even a C-list Hollywood director wouldn't be caught dead using some of the techniques they're using. I mean, the wire harnesses that get seen, or the green screen glitches, or the hairspray instead of putting the women's hair back, or putting a baseball cap on them, or anything. I mean, it's just Mars. Here's a little story. They kicked down in fact, I think I may have it in my email real quick. It is, I don't have it anymore. But the point is like, you've heard recently that it was like, we're going to go back to the moon. Like Trump goes on and this is how the routine goes. And every president has done this since Reagan, which is they say, we're going to recommit to go to the moon. And then within a few months, all of a sudden, new story is like, well, we're going to reallocate things and we're going to think about it. They push it off at least one term past. And so Trump comes out and says, oh yeah, we're recommitting to go to the moon. And then the next story, it's like, nope, we're not even going to attempt it till 2028. He's gone by 2028. So
well, that's what I noticed, and I think a lot of us that are of the older generation, as I've been told by waitresses these days,
he actually has. It's awful.
Yeah. We remember going back to the 80s. We used to grow up and they used to tell us, oh yeah, when you grow up, there's going to be missions to, there's going to be flights, commercial flights. Oh, we're going to do it in 1985. We're going to do it in 1989. We're going to do it in 1995, 96. Yep. It's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 12 times in my lifetime and the earth is flat.
Yeah. Absolutely right. It's amazing.
But have you heard of this new technology though? I mean, this is the latest in space travel technology right here. The latest and greatest. It's the best. The Tesla.
Has it been that long since we talked?
I don't think we've ever talked about this. No, I think we had Jaron on talking about it though.
Oh yeah, well yeah, Jaron. I actually thought that was Jaron's work. When I first, somebody sent that to me, and I said, who did that? Did Jaron do that? I go, that's pretty funny. But I mean, it was fine. But it's like, yeah, I mean, anybody can do that. I mean, that's super easy Photoshopping. And somebody said, no, man, that's a live feed. I'm going, what? Live what? And I click on this thing, and I've got the video lying around. I can give it to you. In fact, here, well, no,
I've got it. I don't want to play it for copyright.
Yeah. But so I watched the live feed spinning around this car, and I'm going, what am I looking at? I was going, there's so many. In fact, I write about it in the book. I mean, there's so many things wrong with that damn car. Again, but because people saw it on television, they immediately thought it was true. And the quick points. One is it supposedly came from his garage. We're talking about, if you believe in space, right? Negative 250 degrees Fahrenheit, positive 250 degrees Fahrenheit. The windows, at the very least, was spider web from the temperature changes, instantly. The pressurized systems, even though it's an electric car, you've got hydraulic systems, your brake fluids, your window washer fluids, all that stuff. They would have detonated. The tires would have blown up. The fiberglass would have been shredded. The dash would have melted. The whole thing would have been a complete disaster. And we saw none of that. It was absolutely pristine, absolutely freaking pristine. And the feed was flawless, right? HD from 3 cameras, no snow, no cutout. It was absolutely freaking flawless feed. But the part that bugged me more than anything? Stupid car. The part that bugged me more than anything?
What's that?
Was not what you saw, but what you didn't see. We're talking about 2 big companies here, one private, one public, right? Tesla and SpaceX. There was no logos on that car anywhere.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Should have been. This is America, damn it. We are corporate. That thing should have been freaking NASCAR. That thing should have been wall-to-wall endorsements, and it wasn't. Right? Even for God's sakes, and but not only that, but why are you using the convertible? Well, I know why, because you're ripping off the animated movie Heavy Metal from.
I was actually thinking that. Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, Radar Rider by Riggs. I'm sorry, I'm a trivia fan. Yeah, the song Radar Rider by Riggs. And it was a Corvette. It was an old 50s, like a 1958 Corvette from. But the point. So he totally ripped that off. But why didn't you use your flagship? Nobody buys the freaking Roadster anymore. Everybody buys that S model. That 4-door sedan. Right? At that point, and not only that, why weren't there any logos on the mannequin? I mean, the mannequin was a freaking marketing gold mine. 4 seats for the S model. My God, the thing could have paid for itself. One corporation, you have in the 4 seats, you have, I don't know. Let's see, Iron Man, a Stormtrooper, Groot, and something else from Marvel, and that would have paid for the whole damn thing. Right, it would have paid for itself. So no, it's not buying it whatsoever. And no, that's it. No other car companies got in on this. Tesla, out of all the major car companies in the world, Tesla did this, right? They put it up there, and sorry, I get excited.
No, it's great.
No, that's great.
After this happened, why wasn't that the big banner in every Tesla dealership ever? That was and Patricia was the one that pointed that one out to me. She goes, yeah, it was just down next to Tesla Motors. She goes, that thing's nowhere to be found. I was going, why not? It's marketing gold. A Tesla in space. It's brilliant.
And that was me puffing on my e-cigarette, by the way. So that sound you heard. But anyways, go ahead.
So yeah, the Tesla car. Sorry, I went off. I was really surprised when I was writing the book because I did a chapter on enemies of the state. I was really surprised how much time I was spending on Elon Musk, because even though I hate Neil deGrasse Tyson, I respect his work. I respect that he's good on stage and he could sell anything. Honestly, he doesn't have to work for NASA. He could sell. He could do self-help videos. He could do infomercials. He could do anything. He's got that sort of stage charisma. But Elon Musk, there was a great headline, and you could look it up. The New Yorker did it, or New York Magazine, and it literally was. Oh no, it was the Post, New York Post. And it was a wonderful headline, and I was so happy they did it. It said, Elon Musk is a total fraud. And it's like, why would you say such a thing, right? And it's like, well, because everything he's ever promised to do, he never did. He said, again, this is the future that you were always talking about. There you go. Elon Musk, total fraud. Everything he ever maybe I'm hoping she listened to me at one point, or he or whoever wrote that, which was he said, "Oh, we're gonna have I'm gonna build a super plane that's gonna go from the United States to China in like 2 hours, and it's gonna cost as much as a business class ticket. I'm gonna help Puerto Rico with my solar panels and solve their power problems after the hurricane. I'm gonna save those kids with my submarine. I'm gonna do an underground rail car from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and so on and so on." But the thing that got me most, and I was up in Canada when I first heard this, I saw the headline and I almost fell out of my chair. Not laughing, just like I was going to have an aneurysm, which was, he said, this is 2017. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to send 2 tourists around the moon in 2018. And I'm going, it's February 2017. You're going to do this in a year? It's like 15 months. You're going to send 2 people around the moon? Nobody's talking about this. And the thing is, he had no rocket, he had no crew, he had no capsule. The program never went anywhere, and nothing ever came of it. And he just does this over and over and over again. Every time he opens his freaking mouth, the media just print it like it's gospel. Like it's, oh, well, this is going to happen. And then 6 months later, when it doesn't go anywhere, he's not exonerated. They just move on. He just gets to say anything he wants. If it was me, and I know he doesn't really answer to that many people, I would never let him in front of a microphone ever. He just, the stuff that he says is just the most outlandish. I mean, it is the future that was robbed from us. It's like he's promising the future, like commercial flights to this and that. The latest one was he joined up with a Japanese billionaire, and they were going to send 9 people around the moon, like 9 artists. And they're going to take like easels, and they're going to like do like an artist's interpretation of the moon. I'm going, with what exactly? First off, the space shuttle program has been decommissioned. 2, the space shuttle program never was intended to go to the moon. You have no capsule. You have no vehicle large enough to go to the moon. You have no crew. 9 people. There it is. 9 people plus a crew. So what? 14, 15 people? What universe are you living in? I mean, it's not just lofty things that he says. It's beyond the pale, and it just drives me insane. Because it's this revisionist history. I mean, your average kid. No, I'm not picking on the millennials too much. If you ask them, it's like, oh yeah, who made Tesla Motors, right? You throw that at Tesla Motors, almost immediately, 3/4 of them say, oh well, it was Elon Musk. It's like, no, he did not make Tesla Motors.
Well, I've got to be honest. I didn't even know that. I thought he did.
It's all right. Most people don't. I didn't. Well, I knew just because I followed him when he made his money from PayPal. That's what it was.
I remember that. Yeah.
He helped program. He's a developer. That's what he is. He's a software developer. And not knocking. There's a lot of good software developers out there. And he got lucky. He was in the right place at the right time. PayPal was a rival of all these other things. PayPal got the endorsements, and he had like a 11% stock option thing, 11%, which is huge when that thing went public. And he became a billionaire overnight. And when that happened, he decided to buy Tesla Motors, which is great. It was like the Mark Cuban story. You know who Mark Cuban is?
I am familiar with the name, but I can't place it.
He was one of the survivors of the dot bomb. So in the first big internet wave of internet advertising and stuff, there were winners and losers. Most of them were losers. He was one of the survivors. Came out smelling like a rose, billionaire. He ended up buying the Dallas Mavericks, sports team. And people think, and he goes to like every game and complains about all sorts of stuff. But that's what Elon did. He bought. So it's like, look, Mark Cuban didn't found the Mavericks. Elon Musk didn't start Tesla, and Ray Kroc didn't start McDonald's. It was freaking McDonald's. The brothers. Watch The Founder, the movie with Michael Keaton. I highly recommend it. It's a brilliant movie. And of course, they overshadow the entire reason why McDonald's became as powerful as they did was because some lawyer in a meeting just came up with a brilliant idea. It was like, anyone that wants to franchise McDonald's doesn't own the land. We lease it to them. And when you lease it to them, you can dictate any terms you want. Basically, you say, you will do exactly what we tell you, or you will lose your lease. And that's how they did it. And that's where they made their money, because they are the biggest private owner of real estate in the world.
I didn't know that. I watched a little short 10-minute YouTube video about how McDonald's was bought, and the guy that actually created it wound up with next to nothing, considering where it is now.
Well, yeah, compared to everybody else. Well,
which seems like a typical American story of business.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, even Ray Kroc almost lost everything. It was the McDonald's brothers that had this little chain, and it was they were the ones that came up with the whole model. You know, the Henry Ford assembly line thing, and they applied it to a restaurant and it worked really, really, really well. And then Ray Kroc came along and tried. He goes, "We got to figure out a way to franchise this." And he failed, and he failed, and he failed. And then one of his lawyers, he was the guy that came up with this brilliant idea, which was, he goes, "How can we get all these franchises to play ball?" And it's like, well, you don't sell them the land, you lease them, and then you own the land. So no matter what happens, win or lose with the franchise, and they always won, you own that real estate on top of it. So they just kept acquiring more and more real estate. So their assets just kept going through the freaking roof. They own postage stamps, as you know. McDonald's owns prime real estate in just about every city in the world right now.
Wow.
Anyway, I know.
Amazing. So let's cut to a quick break. And if you have a little bit more time, I'd like to get into artificial simulation with you.
Sure.
From a video game perspective.
I got it.
Awesome. We'll be right back. Oh, wrong one. Not time for that yet. Let's do here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Drew Pearson. We bring you this special radio television broadcast in order to give you the very latest information on an amazing phenomenon: the arrival of a space ship in Washington. The Army has taken every precaution to meet any emergency which may develop. Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I think something is happening.
But if you threaten to extend your violence, this Earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
Without you, what could he do?
There's no limit to what he could do. He could destroy the Earth.
All vehicles, close in.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against the single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors.
Lord, Batu, Barada, Nikto. Batu, Barada, Nikto.
Open the door! Open the door!
This facility has been sealed. No one leaves.
All right, so on this next intro here, keep an eye out because we have Neil deGrasse Tyson in it, and that's kind of a nod to Flat Earth. So we've been playing this for a long time now, but yeah, check it out. So.
The cries of the mystery speak again, bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right. I don't want to keep Mark too long, but he just sent me.
I got a little time.
Do you? Okay, awesome.
I sent you something that I sent the London people, which is, because as you can imagine, they're coming in a little late to this. And so some of the team were complaining. They were saying, no, we've seen the curvature from an airplane. We've seen the curvature from an airplane. And I said, anyone that asked me that nowadays, beforehand, I'd maybe show them, balloon footage or airplane footage. Now I just send them the Neil Tyson Red Bull criticism. And if no one has seen that, which I just throw it at you, what it is this. Neil Tyson was on stage during something a few years ago, and he was complaining that he thought the Felix Baumgartner Red Bull jump, the longest high-altitude parachute jump, at pushing 130,000 feet. Do you have sound for that?
I do, yeah. We can play it real
quick. Go ahead and play it.
All right.
Yeah. It's pretty short.
The International Space Station is, Hubble, etc.
Okay. So if the Earth were actually this size, the International Space Station would be orbiting about a half an inch above the surface. And that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, what's his name? Felix Baumgartner. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump. Now, I don't. It's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, wow, he's in space. Look at that. No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
Yep.
Oh, that is classic.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you got to remember, he was from an astrophysicist's point of view, he was offended by the Red Bull jump, and I totally got that. He was. There we go. There you go. Sorry.
I'm going to turn the sound off. But
okay, so he was offended by the Red Bull jump because it was dishonest. And in doing that, he basically killed anyone that's ever said that they've seen the curvature from a mountain or an airplane or whatever. It's like, no, here's the most popular scientist in the world. And he's saying very emphatically, there's the Red Bull jump. Oh my God. With such a wide-angle lens that if the Earth was actually that big, it would be the size of basically New Mexico. And he was jumping from 130,000 feet. Now, I'm not knocking. It's like, hey, that's not a small feat, jumping from 130,000 feet. But it ain't space, right? That's 20 miles. It's not space. And that's what Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying. But he was saying that basically that no civilian can see the curvature of the Earth, even that guy. That guy was supposedly as high as spy planes, and he couldn't see the curvature of the Earth. So if you can't see it, then why is everybody telling me they can see it from the airplane? They can't. The big difference is that you want to see it from the airplane. That's the big difference there. It's Orwellian. It's the 5 lights versus 4 lights thing. And let me get this one thing, and we can talk about simulation for a bit, which is, did you ever watch Star Trek Next Generation?
Not me personally, but I'm sure a lot of the audience has.
There was a wonderful episode where Picard was captured and being tortured by the Cardassians, and they were doing the classic torture technique where they were saying, how many lights do you see? And he says 4 lights, and every time he said 4, they just beat him with sticks, right? It's like, no, there's freaking 5 lights. And when he was rescued, the line was, which I love so much, was he goes, the scariest part for me was what he goes, after I was rescued, it wasn't the pain and the torture. He goes, at the end, before I was rescued, he goes, I saw 5 lights, which meant that, the conditioning had set in. And that's what we are with the globe. We're shown the globe so many times. It's not that you see the curvature of the Earth. You want to see it. That's the difference. I have told everybody, I go, fine, you see the curvature from wherever you are, a mountain, the beach. Amazing how many people tell me that they can see the curvature from the beach. You take a picture of that, you put it on some sort of monitor, you hold a straight edge up to it. If it is curved, you send it to me. I will quit Flat Earth tomorrow. 5 years, nothing. No one has even sent me anything. Why would they?
Do you remember, Shuri, there was an Alex Jones, Glenn Beck thing? And Alex Jones had Charlie Sheen on. And the whole time Glenn Beck was kind of poking fun at him because Alex kept saying, I've seen your hernia. I've seen your hernia. Every time somebody says, I've seen the curve, I think of that. I've seen the curve. I've seen your hernia. I don't know if you heard that clip, Mark.
I had not, but I'd love to see it. Did you, by the way, that's a good segue. Did you see when we got on Alex Jones finally? This year?
No, I didn't know that. I know that they did a video. I know that they did a video about how Flat Earth was banned on Google. I didn't know you guys were actually on there.
Oh yeah. Oh, wow. So David Weiss from DITRH got on, and why was because one of the producers, I'm not going to say who, one of the producers at Alex Jones is one of us. And the same thing with this British team out there. One of the British team, the televisions, the producers. I run into this more often. That's how I got the commercial, by the way. Down in Australia, was because one of the people at the company was one of us.
I remember the commercial. What? How do I find it on YouTube?
Look up. You know what? I'll just dump it for you. Hang on one second. Okay. It's called the YouTube channel. It's going to be tough to find on the YouTube channel. It's called Sports Bet. So the short version, and I'll kill my video when I load it to you.
I think I found it.
What, you found me?
I think I found
you found Sports Bet.
Yeah, I think I found Sports Bet.
Well, you found Sports Bet. You probably didn't find me on it though. Give me 1 second.
Is that you? That kind of almost looks like.
Yeah, I hit it. Wow, that was fast.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with SportsBet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. SportsBet's new iPhone app. It's foolproof.
Yep.
You guys are fucking insane. I love it. This is great.
The first, you've never seen that?
I saw it a while back when it first came out. You sent it to me, but
that was the endorsement. This company, okay, so online gambling is completely legal in Australia. It's not like in the States where it's state by state and, you have to have, like reservation land or something like that. No, the whole country, everything's totally legal. And they called me up and they said, hey, can you be down in Melbourne in 10 days? And I go, okay, what am I doing? And they go, well, you're going to do this campaign called Foolproof. And I go, wow, really? And they showed me the script and I said, you know what? Sure. Why the hell not? I shot for 9 hours, 3 hours one day and 6 hours the next day. They paid me well. And all I held up a phone for hours. And of course, I was holding up a dead phone where they graphicked everything on there. But it was cool. And I got to meet a whole bunch of great people. And it was a national campaign that was shown in every sports bar and every television. People were calling me. In fact, there was a guy that called.
We need a GIF of that.
Oh man, they wouldn't let me have a real sword. They said, you're going to have to stab this with this plastic sword. I go, this piece of crap, it's never going to puncture. and they go, and we only have one globe, so you better do it your first try. It's like, oh man. So we did that, and it was a lot of fun. And there were billboards, and there was some guy. It was so surreal. Some guy called one of our friends. It's like. There was a bus driving by, and it's like, why do I see Mark Sargent on a bus? Airports, which is, it was really cool. But anyway, I don't regret it. Again, even if only a handful of people, I mean, I guarantee you people are going to look at the topic because of it. Let me see if I can find, if you do a search for Alex Jones Flat Earth, I bet you'll find it.
Okay.
So DITRH got on Alex Jones. So the early story on that was that one of Alex Jones' producers contacted me back in 2016. And there was a weird conversation because kind of like what you guys were doing earlier. It's like he said, how long can we do a Flat Earth show without actually saying the words? I say, what? Maybe 10 minutes tops if I dance around it a little bit? He goes, yeah, we can't take that risk. I go, well, you called me, so whatever. And so time went on, and then Owen Benjamin, a comedian who actually lives now up in the Seattle area, he and David Weiss and some other people got involved, and David Weiss got on. And so you know who Eddie Bravo is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eddie Bravo is sitting there with his friend, and Eddie Bravo's right next to Alex Jones, and Eddie Bravo's stoned, and he's keeping Alex in check while David Weiss is on the screen. He's piped in via Skype, and so he made sure that Alex stayed on track, and he was there for the whole episode, like an hour. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
I can't find it on YouTube, but I remember watching. And Alex has been banned from YouTube, and it's ridiculous. However, I remember watching them at a dinner. They were having dinner, and Eddie Bravo was there, Alex Jones was there, and they were bringing up this whole topic. I think it was with Alex Jones. I know Eddie Bravo was there. I'm 99% sure it was with Alex Jones.
I found it. Hang on. I will give it to you right now. 1 second. This is one of them. There's several out there. I just typed in DITRH and then Alex Jones. So it's right there.
All right.
But yeah, and Alex, he went along with it, and there's several more out there. But it was cool. I'm happy that David's getting so much stuff. It was a coup because I couldn't get on that freaking show. So David's been making waves.
Awesome. Let me see if I can grab this link. Okay. Oh, is it just the no, this is an actual show.
Yeah, it's the actual show.
I thought it was just the audio.
I think it when
the first thing that comes up on Google when you go Flat Earth, they're going to take you right to the Flat Earth Society. They're going to capture curious people, and then they're going to turn everybody off. That's the plan.
Alex, why are they hiding it?
Why would they do that? Why would they have a Flat Earth Society #1 search? Why?
Yeah.
Why, Alex? Right there. Why would they do that?
Because Google cares about us.
You know what's funny, Mark, is when we had you on the show, and actually I'm going to call you right back because I don't know how to get rid of this freaking chat box. So let me just disconnect and reconnect with you real quick.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It's freaking Skype here. All right. Cool. All right. So when we first had you on way back in 2015, we had another show on the station, and they were kind of bashing Flat Earth, and I was like, hey guys, that's not cool. However, what happened is they went immediately to the Flat Earth Society website, and I actually jumped onto the show a little bit later, and I said, no, none of that is really valid. They cut me off of the show and started going through the Flat Earth Society talking points, and I'm like, no, this is not what we're talking about at all, period. So I saw it firsthand at the very beginning. All I had to do is say the word one time, have you on the first show we ever did about it. That's exactly the reaction that people did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could totally see that. Although now, I used to complain, for any of the flat earthers that are listening out there, I used to complain back in 2015 because, it was so tough to get media exposure. And I remember when Kent Hovind was coming out of prison, because he was in prison for tax evasion, the big Christian literalist. And when he came out, people were asking him about flat earth and what he thought about it. And he kind of reacted like, what was that, when Han Solo was taken out of carbonite? I know that's a super nerdy reference, where he's like, what, I'm gone for a little while and people have delusions of grandeur. That was his reaction. I mean, he was like, what? People are talking about flat earth. And we are now so media spoiled that now we're actually getting picky. So I remember giving, Jaron grief because he's like, oh, Newsweek is picking on me. Dude, if that's the biggest thing you got to complain about.
Right.
It's like my Netflix documentary, I didn't like the way they portrayed me. It's like, oh, God.
What happened with that? I don't think I ever talked to Jaron about that. I don't think we did a show about this topic since then.
Oh, you mean the documentary?
Yeah.
Oh, the director hated us. I mean, and not as people, he hated the topic. And what happened, and when you'll know more about that this year, because CBS is going to come after me in a huge way. What happened was he wanted to make it. The director wanted to make it as a human interest piece, and he absolutely was going to try to be as neutral as possible. I spent 7 months with the guy. He seemed like really, really nice. And honestly, we didn't know what had changed, but their tone had changed by the time we finished the conference to when the movie was released. And I didn't know why. It just did. I couldn't quite get it. And then I listened to the director's commentary on iTunes. So the director's commentary was only on iTunes. It was the producer, the main producer, and the director, and one of the editors, and it was super boring, because it's like, come on, if you're gonna do a commentary, just keep it popping. They got to the end. I don't know if you remember the documentary. Oh God, that thing. And they got to the.
Uh-oh. We might have to. There is a poor connection. We're going to need some donations, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat room, because apparently we have a poor connection, and we're going to have to fund that thing up.
How about now?
You're back. You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes I swear it's Comcast. All right. So let me.
Yeah, we have Comcast as well. We pay for the freaking supposedly best of the best, and it goes on us constantly.
Okay. So. Normally I have to kill my email in Comcast because there's some sort of buffer in the advertising, I think, that it hogs so much bandwidth that it doesn't happen very often. But when it does, it's like it just grabs it, and it's like, yeah, whatever you're doing, don't make any freaking plans. So this 12-year-old kid came up to the mic. I do a Q&A session after my speeches usually, because that's what I love doing. I love doing Q&A. And this 12-year-old kid walks up to the microphone. He was asking me questions. Immediately, that's when the director said in the commentary, he goes, yeah, this is when we had to take a stand. It's like, what? And it was, the old saying, it's like, well, it's all fun and games till the kids are involved. It's like, really? They got so worried that there were kids at this conference. Now you're messing with the future. It's like, oh, okay, it's all wacky and zany, but now we're talking about really serious stuff. And that's when they started spinning the movie. They wanted to make a stand against it. It actually helped us in the end because it made audiences feel safe. I know because I went to some of the film festivals, and the audiences did feel safe because it wasn't pure, use a drug reference, it wasn't a pure, uncut flat Earth. It was diluted. It was flat Earth, and then an astronaut. Flat Earth, a scientist, flat Earth, and a psychiatrist, and so on. So when people thought they were getting overloaded, it was like, oh my God, the flat Earth. It's like, oh, okay, there's a psychiatrist saying they're crazy. Okay, we're fine. And that's how it rolled. And so by the time it made you go back and forth, by the time you got to the end, they were really, really engaged. The Jaren problem, the reason they ended the movie the way they did was because that's how it happened, first off. But part of it, the blame does go with Jaren, and that was Jaren. The first rule of anything, you do a dry run, right? Even your best, every producer will tell you, it's like, look, should do a major production, you got to do a dry run. And so Jaren thought he found a perfectly flat place on Google Earth and said, oh, we'll just go there. Let's go there at night and set up shop. He didn't until several months later, when he finally drove out there during the daytime, he realized he didn't have line of sight. It wasn't perfectly flat, but he didn't know. He should have checked. And to make matters worse, he brought him back there twice. He brought him back there once, when he melted the condenser on the laser. And then after the conference, he had him come up again. And you remember, they were on a shoestring budget, so they were pretty surly as it was. So Jaren became the fall guy in this case. They decided, okay, we're gonna end it on that. But it was fine because it made the audience feel safe. It made it be the reason why it did as well as it did is because nobody that produced that movie was a flat earther. In fact, they were very, very against flat earth. I listened to them in film festivals, and they didn't want, they don't have any contact with flat earthers. They're not, they are absolutely against it. They are science people, which is absolutely, bizarre to me. But it worked out because every time the film festival audience came at him, the very first question was, do you believe in flat earth? And because had they said yes, the tone would have changed. I know because I was in a theater when they said I was there. And they said, oh, yeah, and the director's going, oh, we're going to announce that you're in the audience. I'm going, that's a terrible idea. And he's going, no, it'll be fine. I go, no, it's not. And he did, and I was just like, I thought it was going to happen. You know, the you could feel the whole mood of the theater just change. You know, like everybody, you know, because we were right in the middle, and it's like, you know, you can imagine all the heads turning. It's like, wait, there's flat earthers in the room right now. And at that point, any questions to the director and the people on stairs or on stage stopped. It was over. It was like, in fact, one of the people was like, get them a microphone. Get them a microphone. And it was Patricia and I sitting next to each other. And that was it. And then, in fact, they had to cut the whole thing. Eventually, they had to kick everybody out of the theater because it wouldn't end. The questions just never, ever stopped. Anyway, what do you want to talk about virtual reality?
Well, you know, a good segue into that is a couple of weeks ago, we had a quote-unquote scientist on, and we were just having a good conversation. We've had him on a few times before, and he actually wrote us and asked us to come on the show. So I started pulling out some flat Earth talking points without saying flat Earth or even alluding to flat Earth. I just pulled up some ideas about NASA. I pulled up the idea that they were tinting the photos red from Mars, and I don't know if you remember back in the year like 2000, something like that. They did this press conference and came out with these pictures from Mars with blue skies and brown terrain, and nobody really asked any questions. And then like 3 days later, people were like, hey, and NASA came out and said, yeah, we've been tinting it red. Cherie was pretty brilliant about it. She came out and she said, well, they're what did you say? They're falsifying the data.
Yeah, they're falsifying the data.
She used that word,
completely.
falsifying the data.
Yeah.
As soon as I did, this dude's attitude just changed completely. He started belittling us. He started speaking condescendingly to us. I mean, it just completely changed the vibe until it finally got to the point where I'm like, all right, this guy's got to go. I'm not going to sit here and just be insulted like this. However, it was funny to see the scientifically minded, quote unquote, come up against these. I mean, it was very real fallacies that we're talking about here. It wasn't any kind of kooky conspiracies or anything. And I was asking, how can you trust this data when these people are openly? I mean, they admitted to falsifying the data as soon as somebody called them out on it, and they just hit that wall. And it just goes back to the very idea of scientism, and scientism being a religion in and of itself. You've got to stay in that box, which is why I think a scientist. I think a lot of them know, but they just don't want to admit it. We're getting some love from Shelley in the chat. Thank you, Shelley. Much love,
Shelley.
She's paying for that poor connection we were having earlier, so we can fund that poor connection. Anyways, but leading into that, some of the ideas I brought up was simulated reality, and I brought up Professor Gates's work, who is a string theorist, and he found a repeating self-correcting computer code within the fabric of space-time itself. I'm sorry, within string theory, and it was very, very interesting, and a couple of other scientific conclusions leading to the idea that we're living in a simulation. And going all the way back, it's something that you said that actually really sparked this train of thought. You said, you know, when you look at it from a video game perspective, and I said, you know what? We need to start looking at this from a video game perspective. And as soon as I did, I started to notice all these different anomalies. I've hacked video games before. And when you move the avatar outside of the screen, you can actually see it looks like there's a huge world outside, but there really isn't. It's just from the perspective of that window, it looks like there's a huge world. But the only thing in reality in the video game that's rendered is whatever the player needs to see at the time. And if it's the illusion of a huge world, then it is. I look up at space, especially under ayahuasca and things like that, and I'm looking at it. It looks like a circuit board, and it doesn't look like there's anything real out there, and it's only rendered based on the observer. So if we manage to travel out there, maybe more will render, but I don't think what we're looking at is actually there. So maybe we can go into your thoughts about that.
Oh, yeah. And I talk about it in the last chapter of the book, and because, you know, I saved it for the end, which is, you know, as you know, I came from the video game world, and I was in it for a number of years, and that's what all technology companies are striving to do, is create some sort of virtual reality. And all the simulations that we're making now, most of them are entertainment based. You know, any of the modern video games, you know, the most current, you know, like being Fortnite or Grand Theft Auto or Minecraft, they're built in a box. Basically a big square box with a shallow ceiling. It's like no different than a soundstage. In fact, the everything you see in the sky is part of, you can look this up, it's part of the skybox system. In fact, there's wonderful rendering programs out there where you can see the skybox system, where it's basically a box above you that, with corners, but the way they can blend it in, they can make it look like a sky, and it's beautiful. And we've been doing that for a number of years. As far as what you were talking to, and I did a wonderful video back in 2017. Maybe I'll re-release it eventually, but I'll link it to you after I'm done here. It's called Flat Earth and the Virtual Reality Idea. And I stole it from I stole snippets from another company that was doing videos on that type of idea, but the concept is part of the double slit experiment. The famous double slit experiment, which is that the old saying we were asked when we were kids: if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one near to hear it, doesn't make a sound, right? And back in the 70s, that didn't mean anything. Well, now we have the answer to that, and that is no, it doesn't make a sound because there is no tree there. Because there's no person there to see the tree, there is no tree. That's the point. And that's part of the double slit experiment. If you guys don't know what it is, the short version is when they were measuring single electron guns going through double slits. When they were watching it, they were seeing a very specific result. When they weren't watching it, it completely fuzzed out and blurred into, the whole particle versus wave thing. And which meant that, so it was like, why are we seeing that in real life, and why is that important? It's important because that's what we do in the gaming world. That's what we do in simulation worlds. Anyone that ever plays a game, you know this deep in your heart, but you don't want to deal with it because you're playing a game. And that is, your character is walking through a village, right? And you see a mountain off in the distance, and you know full well because of the game, you're never going to be on the other side of that mountain. Do you program and draw the other side of that mountain? No, you do not. Why would you? Because your character is never going to be there. It's a waste of resources. It's conservation of resources in programming. It's very, very easy. Same thing applies not just to the mountain, but the very streets that you're on. Whatever you can't see is nothingness. There's nothing there. If you are in a house, if you're in the basement of a house in a game, there's nothing above you. There is no second floor. There's no, they don't render it until you need it to be rendered. And that's the reason why it's kind of a telltale is that that's what we see in this world. We see this all the time. There's several different things I could point out. Not just the double slit experiment. Look at there's a wonderful thing that you could watch a documentary on it called Neuroscience and Free Will. You ever hear that one?
I have not.
Okay, Neuroscience and Free Will, brilliant. And that was, scientists, because they're really clever, they hook up electrode to somebody's head, they put them in front of a computer, they have them start hitting keys, and they start measuring brain waves. And then what they were doing is like, okay, pick a number between whatever it is, 1 and 9 on your keyboard, right? And not only that, but watch the time and see when you decided to pick that number, which was like, just a fraction of a second beforehand. So if I'm going to pick the number 3, I'm thinking of 3 now, right? And then I look at the number right on the screen. Well, the computer can't tell you exactly what number you're going to pick. We're not that good yet. What was interesting was, though, it could tell you when you were going to pick the number. And here's where it gets creepy. It could actually tell that 8 seconds before you decided to. So
I have heard about that. Now that you say that, I've heard about this experiment.
And it's absolutely real. And scientists they do not know what to do with this because it absolutely screams predestination, which means that, you want to get into weird? It's not just that you may be living in a virtual reality. You may be living in a virtual movie that you already picked the choices for before you got into this, which makes so much more sense because it's so much more efficient. So you pick the path ahead of time. Then you go along the path, but the path has already been chosen for you, and there are certain little clues, breadcrumbs, that that's the case. 8 seconds before you actually pick the number, that's not possible because you just consciously picked that number. But the computer says, no, you picked it 8 seconds ago, and here's where we can show it. Meaning that, it can tell you exactly, that you're going to choose that number. It's not like you're going to change the mind, you change your mind and not hit the key. You're absolutely going to do that. So it's fascinating.
Have you seen the film Donnie Darko?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've got that on the screen. As he's starting to realize the reality that he's in, which is an alternate timeline, I don't want to spoil it for people. He starts to notice that all these tubes are coming out of people, and he's being pulled to wherever these tubes are leading him to, and everything is essentially pre-programmed and predestined.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? I mean, it's the most efficient way to do it. I'll give you one more. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I want to get this one out, which is It was something I came up with recently, which was imagine this. Imagine you'll get this. Imagine you're directing a movie. You're the director, right? You have total control, like Orson Welles in, what was that big movie he made? Back in the day, Citizen Kane.
Okay.
He had total creative control. Doesn't really matter. You have total creative control over every decision in this movie. Everything from set design to the actors to the music. Everything is under your control, right? You make the movie exactly the way you want it. And then at the end, you bump your head. You get in a car wreck and you have amnesia, right? And then you go and somebody shows you your movie, the one that you just directed. For you, it would be the most amazing movie ever, because everything on screen would absolutely completely be, it's like, wow, the movie, the music's perfect and the casting's perfect. Everything's perfect because you made it that way. That's what we're kind of talking about here. The potential of it doesn't have to be an interactive virtual thing where everything's random. Heck no. You make the choice. You make all the choices beforehand. Then you go in. The only thing you have to worry about is making sure you don't remember that ahead of time.
You know what's amazing is we've talked about this phenomenon of astrology. Cherie's a very, very talented astrologer, which leads me to believe that what we're looking at the sky is a circuit board rather than anything else. It's dictating changes, energetic changes within the matrix itself, and we're bound to that. I think that might be a clue to the code of this predetermined destiny. And the question is, can we break that? Can we break the programming that's already been broken within our life path? And if so, how do we do that? Or are we just destined to watch this movie play out?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it, because do you want to break out of something that you were the one that signed up for in the first place?
It could be.
I don't know. If it kind of goes into the old argument of, oh boy, getting into so many different things. The first question you would ask God, if you're going down that road, is why do you let bad things happen to good people? And the argument would be, well, if you volunteered for it, I'm off the hook.
That's true. I mean, if you would have told me 20 years ago that I was going to go to the Great Pyramid, we were going to take that fucking thing over, drink ayahuasca, kick everybody out. Like, we literally told everybody, you can't be in here. And they said, okay, no problem. It was almost like we had written it before. And the whole time we were going through it, I was like, this is already written. It's already done. We've got to do this. I would have thought I would have thought I was crazy back then if I would have told myself that back then. And then going through it, after we came out of it, I'm thinking, okay, this has to be a video game here. There's no fucking way you can just walk into the Great Pyramid and take it over unless it's already preordained and predestined.
I'll give you one more, which is the chain of events. It was something I'm pretty introspective most of the time, and I was thinking of the chain of events that led to my life to this point. And think of what, the chain of events that led you to your path, right? And I kept thinking, it's the old argument. It's like, well, if I had a time machine, I had to go back to talk to my previous self. I'd change this and this and this. But then you realize the ripples that would all of a sudden affect everything else. And then if you change this, then this would change, and this doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden you're in a completely different place. And I thought to myself, as I was getting there, I don't know if I'd change anything because it's too fragile. And so the question is, if you knew, like, for example, that you had this glorious destiny, this wonderful ending, whatever Act 3 or whatever is going to lead up to, the pinnacle of your life. But in order to reach that, you had to break a couple arms, you had to get an illness, a couple family members had to die, had to be tragedy and, all this other stuff. Would you still do it? And some people wouldn't. It's like, yeah, but that's the path you chose. I believe that there's a balance in life, and every great journey has its peaks and its valleys. And it has to be that way. Every great story has that. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be much of a hero's journey. And that's
true. That's true. I mean, all the strife and struggle and tribulation. I've got a friend right now who's breaking out of the Christian programming, and she's feeling a little guilty about everything and pushing that onto others. And I said, look, if that programming wasn't there to begin with, there would be nothing to break out of. So there would be no journey if you didn't go through that. So don't feel bad about it. It's all part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be a balance. I've seen that. I've been looking for it more in the last 10 years. With everybody seems to have a balance in their life, one way or the other. You know, the bill comes due. You can't, you know. I kind of treat it like an EKG meter, like a heart thing. You know, where some people have really dizzying highs, but their lows are incredibly low to the point where, you know, sometimes they die. Look at guys like River Phoenix or Heath Ledger, right? Heath Ledger, the role of his lifetime, dead.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you know, really high, really low. And other people, you know, they stay, you know, along those lines. But the point is there's this balance between the two. And so, you know, whatever path I'm on right now, boy, you got me. I mean, I don't, but I wouldn't change anything. I've now determined it's like, no, I can't. I couldn't change. I could not change a damn thing back in the day, even going back when I was 6 years old, to where it would lead to where I am now. So, no.
I know. No, that's true. That's true. I look back in life and think to myself, you know, if I would have turned left here, turned right here, where would we be? And you're right. It's so fragile that one small change would change the trajectory of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to use a movie reference, but if anyone has any doubt of that, look up the, not that I want to endorse Ashton Kutcher movies, but The Butterfly Effect. If you remember that one from, I don't know, at least 10 years ago. You guys ever see it?
I remember
Ashton
that.
Kutcher?
I remember that one. Yeah.
Effect, where he went back and he kept changing things, and
by looking at the pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. By looking at the pictures and his words, and you know, and it was basically his own form of time travel. Yeah, that's beautiful. I like what's that is. Is that real time?
Yeah, that's a Rick and Morty virtual reality where you go into virtual reality, then you play another game called Troy. So you live a whole life in this game, and then he's about to die here in just a moment. And this is what I think happens when we die. I think it's going over here. Let's see. Boom. 69 years, 4 months, game over. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's digital things, and let me because eventually I'm gonna have to wrap this up. Let me get into it, because people say, you know, where do you think flat Earth is going? And I said this back in 2015, 2016, which was the 100th monkey effect, which is a whole nother thing that science loves denying, even they're the ones that came up with it. Which was, you ever heard of the 100th monkey effect?
Yes, that is in, I don't remember what islands it was, but it was one island learned to, some monkeys on one island learned to wash their bananas or coconuts or something like that. And then the other monkeys supposedly didn't have any interaction with each other, but they started picking it up as well. Yeah.
Yep. They uploaded. Yeah. The monkeys, they were showing them, the monkeys learned how to wash the sand off the potatoes, and they were tastier without the sand. And then all of a sudden, when I got to about the 100th monkey, all the monkeys knew it. Instantly, including the monkeys that were on other islands that had nothing to do with this other thing. And science like, no, it's a myth. It's like, why would that be a myth? I go, that sounds like great programming to me, which is beneficial update. It's like, no, update all species, you know, all groups of that monkey. And that's where that's what I'm hoping that happens with the flat Earth thing, which is, you know, human beings, you know, even more sophisticated, I think have the potential for that. Whereas when the topic becomes, I hate using these terms, when it's cooler to talk about flat Earth than not to talk about it, you know, when all the cool kids are doing it. Mm-hmm. When that happens, then all of a sudden, you know, then it becomes this big awakening where everyone's like, oh yeah, it's a thing. And there was the stats, and let me lead in with the CBS piece. They're worried. National Geographic was worried about the kids. The documentary people were worried about the kids. CBS were worried about the kids, and that's because we're tracking younger and younger. Did I ever send you the Asmongold video?
No.
Okay, let me send you that really fast, which is, so U.gov did a survey a while ago, and they were talking to 18 to 24-year-olds and in America. It was a British research team, and 18 to 24-year-olds in America, a full third of them were globe skeptics, like 34%. And that was way beyond the standard deviation. It was huge. And that freaked out. Like National Geographic and other science groups were attacking the research team, their own research team, saying, you must have done this census wrong. It's like, what are you talking about? This is what we do. This is our jobs. And it's like, no, and that would make sense. 18 to 24. What was interesting, though, was under 20 was the numbers were climbing even higher than that.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, that's dangerous at that point because now you've got the next generation thinking outside of the box or outside of the ball.
Outside of the ball.
Outside of the ball, yeah.
Play this. Hang on. 1 second. Asmongold Earth. See if I can find it.
So what I want to get into after this is with your final thoughts on what happens in a video game when the players become aware that it's a simulation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Give me 1 second. I've almost got it.
All right.
I will double. It's just a link. I'm not going to give you the Neil Tyson one or type.
How's Mrs. Geo doing?
I'm good.
What do you think so far?
I think it's fascinating that there's so much evidence to suggest that at the very least, something is incredibly wrong with the globe Earth thing, and that NASA's so shady about everything else that, it's becoming more and more obvious to just regular people that something's up. And then whenever they start to listen even a little bit, even if it's somebody making fun of Flat Earth, they're still kind of drawn to it because they even feel something is shady about it.
Let me frame this real quick before you play it, which is, so this is because kids nowadays, they're too lazy, they don't even play their own video games. So they watch other people play video games.
Yes, I've noticed
perfect sense to me. It's like, really? Are you serious? So this guy who plays big gamer, he's playing and he does multitask, and somebody in chat says the Earth is flat. So he pulls up a straw poll. He goes, okay, is the Earth flat? Right? And the votes are coming in at about 120 a second. And at no point is Flat Earth losing. And watch his face. Watch this.
That the majority of people thought the Earth was flat. Okay? So, I'm not really going to base a whole lot of credibility. It is? Okay, you know what? You want to have a vote on that? Let's have a vote on that. All right, is the Earth flat, actually? Yes, no. All right, we'll do this one here, okay, guys? Give me a second. And there you go.
And that was not that long ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. We were scoring at 53%.
Nice.
And here's where it gets interesting. And then we can ask whatever your last final thought thing is, which is the interesting part was, we were scoring 53% in the under 20 crowd, right? But if you took that same, a couple thousand people and put them in an arena and had them raise their hands, the peer pressure would be too much, and that number would dwindle down to maybe single digits. So again, we have so many people in the closet, so many.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, but anonymously, there you are.
That is incredible. I'm amazed. I'm really amazed. What I'm concerned about, though, is the effect that shows like ours, yours, things like that have on the potential of completely destroying the whole fucking matrix. Because if this is a simulated reality, which I really think it is. I think the number one thing was some people see it as a globe, some people see it as flat. Right. You see it as however you want to see it. Like you mentioned earlier, if you're looking for the curve, you're going to see the curve, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the curve's there. It means that your mind is changing to see that. And if truth is fluid in that nature, and we are living in a holographic simulation, what happens when all the players realize that it's a holographic simulation? The system has to be rebooted at some point, and the players have to be expelled.
But I think that's part. Again, I can go either way with this, and I talk about that in the last chapter, which is it's one of two things: either it's potential new golden age, the brass ring, where we get to transition to something else, and then some other group comes on behind us, because as you know, we're not the first people to rent this apartment by a long shot. So, or it could be potentially disastrous. But either way, you gotta reach that point. It's kind of what I kind of call it as Act 3, So all great stories are in 3 parts, 3 acts. The first act, you establish the characters. Second act, you give them a challenge. And the third act, that challenge is either resolved or it's not. They win or lose. And that's where I think we are. I think that, once enough people figure this out, what do you do with it? What happens? Do I think that people are going to be running through the streets with pitchforks and torches? No. I think there would have been much more potential for panic back in 1960 when they kind of figured it out, but not now. I think people are open-minded enough that again, I'm doing that glass half full thing. I think there's potential for people to really go into a new form of civilization, to where maybe we can get away from war and violence and be completely constructive, or maybe, who knows, maybe that at that point alarm bells go off and it's like, you win, you gotta go, like the senior class, you don't have to go home, but you gotta get the hell out of school.
Yep, so. I'm looking for a meme. I can't find it. It's I sent it to you earlier. It said pessimists see the glass half empty, optimists the glass half full, flat earthers see it as water stays consistent.
Water stays level.
Water stays level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And again, we're seeing it. I mean, it changes people. It really, really does. And let me end with this. When I got into this, if there was a chance that it was built by a higher power, and again, I'm not going to name deities or anything like that, but if it was built by a higher power, then some group that built this is looking over us. And if that's the case, I'm never going to do anything malicious to anybody ever again. And I haven't, ever since this. It's like, gun to my head, do something bad to that guy. It's like, nope.
There's a movie that's coming out now, and it's got, Ryan Reynolds, I think, is the actor. It's about him in a video game, and all these people keep on robbing him and stealing from him every single day. And basically they realize, hey, all these people are playing video games, and it's the NPCs kind of waking up. And he starts fighting off all the... Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, but I want to see it.
Let me see if I can find the trailer.
It sounds like an extension of one of the concepts in the Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio.
We sat down to watch that. I was so tired, though, I couldn't sit down and watch it all the way. But we just came across that movie the other night. I mean, I've heard about it before. I just didn't sit down and watch it.
You never watched Inception yet?
I've never seen it, no.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascinating movie. It's a little long, and it's a little heady, but it'll probably be the best thing that particular director ever made. He was the guy that did.
Here you go. We're gonna get copyright strikes for this, but fuck it, doesn't matter.
Not necessarily. It's a trailer.
Mondays, am I right, Joe?
You said it, guy.
Yeah. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Everybody down on the ground!
Hey, bud, you ever think that there's got to be more?
More than what?
The stuff we do day after day.
Oh, he's
being shot at, run over, taken hostage.
Everybody down on the ground!
Today's gonna be different. Hi.
God, this isn't you. You don't do this, man.
Maybe I do.
Phew, this is scary.
He's just resting.
In pieces. That man is dead.
He's so sleepy.
But it's just a squeeze me.
Wow.
this what recreational drugs feel like?
Guy, this world, it's a video game. And it's full of bad guys.
I'm a rule breaker. I'm a rattle chicka snaker.
We need you to be the good guy.
I'm sorry. Oh, God.
Wow! Giddy up!
Is that a Glock in your pocket?
No,
What?
it's 2 Glocks.
Oh! I'm not going to be the good guy. I'm going to be the great guy.
Okay. Wow, enjoy your lifetime supply of virginity. Off you go.
So,
Wow. Interesting.
Wow.
yeah.
So this world is a video game.
It's called Free Guy. Yeah. He's
Wow.
an NPC that wakes up and realizes what's going
That's
on.
awesome.
That is
I'm
awesome.
absolutely going to see that. That is great stuff.
It's all over Hollywood, and that's what's strange. I mean, I'm sure you've heard at least of these series like Dark, for example. That's all about like time travel. Everything repeats every 33 years. Yeah. I mean, it's just one after another, after another, after another, which my theory is that when we create and we operate from that creator essence of ourselves, we're actually bringing out information that we have forgotten about that's behind the overlay when we come in here. And so we're creating and manifesting essentially what has always been in our own consciousness. And it's just, it's coming out so much. And I think that Flat Earth was like the beginning of this awakening to realize the nature of reality.
Yep. I absolutely, I have said it since day one, and that is Flat Earth feels like the picture frame for a canvas that we have not seen yet.
Yep.
It is, but it's absolutely necessary. Without the frame, you got nothing. So
let's just hope the NPCs don't start taking over, because
oh god,
lead to disaster.
I'm going to be in an airport tomorrow. That's not.
That could be pretty bad. Yeah.
So, anything you want to leave the audience with? Anything we didn't touch upon? And let me say this, Mark, too. This has been the best fucking show that we've done with you, hands down. I mean, this has been entertaining, enlightening, uplifting. It's been phenomenal. I remember we did that show with Stanton Friedman. Poor guy. He passed away recently, and you kind of annihilated him on that show. And I wanted to take it off YouTube because he passed away, and I didn't want. But then it's getting so many hits. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to take it down.
Don't take it off. You kidding? What? Stan was old.
Yeah.
It's not like he get hit with a car wreck, in a car, or fall out of an airplane or anything. He was old.
Yeah.
So, no.
I felt kind of bad afterwards, though. It's like
I'm glad that he talked about it. No, the only things to leave you with, of course, anyone that's new to this, don't. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Ask questions. Always ask questions and figure this out for yourself. The book.
Oh, we didn't even mention the book.
Oh,
the book. Because obviously, Flat Earth is a money-making scheme to sell books,
right.
And that's why you have your book on audiobook for free on YouTube. And I went to Amazon, and I'm like, oh, it's free on Kindle too. Oh shit.
Well, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free.
That's classy, man. That's very classy.
Yeah.
The other thing, because I'm not generally an app guy, but I got to mention this, and that is, it took us a year to build this, and that is the Flat Earth Sun and Moon. Where am I? The Flat Earth Sun and Moon.
Oh, right there. You got it right there.
Flat Earth Moon Sun and Moon Zodiac Clock app on iTunes. It's tracking #1 in Flat Earth. It's got great Q&As for people that don't like to read or anything. If you just want an app, you get all your questions are answered on this thing. It's completely in real time. The sun and the moon are where they should be. So it's really cool.
Nice.
It was built by DITRH.
Quick question for you, because I was thinking about this earlier. Solar eclipses, obviously, the moon gets in front of the sun. They're both the same size. It just seems obvious to me. Lunar eclipses, though. Any information about lunar eclipses? Because that's the one I can't quite figure out unless the moon is projecting its own light.
The moon is projecting its own light. Plain and simple. Anyone wants to look that up? Look up something called. It's one of my 5 talking points, which is the moon's generating its own cold light. Which is, I thought it was crazy when I first heard it. In fact, it was somebody that called in on Strange World back in 2016. And what they had said was, yeah, the moon's generating a cold light. I go, really? And they go, yeah. So if it's 90 degrees in the sun, it's 80 degrees in the shade. We all know that because it's colder in the shade. He goes, this moon, it's the exact opposite. 50 degrees in the moonlight, up to 63 degrees in the moon shade. It's warmer in the shade. It's like, that's not possible. And it's like, oh yeah, it absolutely is. In fact, I had to look it up. It's a technology we have now, and I'm not saying we built the moon. It's called cold laser. They use it in some facial stuff, the cold laser light. But universities can do it. You change the frequency of a laser, you can actually make things colder. Not like Mr. Freeze, Batman cold, but you can make things colder. And does that prove a flat Earth? No, it does not. But it absolutely destroys the relationship between the sun and the moon. Here's where it gets weird. And I will say that I coined this because I said, hey, what happens if you take a magnifying glass to moonlight? Well, if you take a magnifying glass to moonlight, it even gets colder than that. And you can test this with like a point and click infrared thermometer you buy for $20 now at the hardware store, or copper strips or whatever. We've done it time and time and time again. Moonlight is cold. It's generating a cold light. So whatever's up there you see as the moon is just a projection system. It's generating its own light. The sun is basically a big incandescent light bulb, and the moon is an LED nightlight.
It's funny you say that because during that super blood moon eclipse that was back in like 2017, 2018, I know Jaron had gotten together with the NASA channel guy. I forget his name. But they were all hanging out. We were drinking ayahuasca up here and we were watching it. And this thing was huge in the sky. But when it hit, it felt like we were underneath the Walmart lights. That's the only way that I can describe it. I mean, it was a different type of light. It felt like fluorescent light. It was hitting, because when you're on ayahuasca, you can feel the energy. You can feel all of that. The energy was totally, totally different. And from that point on, we only drank on the new moon when the moon is not even, when it's not shining any light at all. So
it's no joke. Rob Skiba was one of the first people to do the tests. I mean, he did it over and over. He's like in real time. He's going, look. In fact, there was a guy that came out last year with one of those Predator type cameras, where it can measure, heat. He's he's showing it. He wasn't even a believer. And all of a sudden he was going, wait, what? And it was real. It's absolutely real. The moon is generating a cold light. I throw that at any scientist. It just shuts them down. They do not know what to do with it whatsoever, because at the very least, it should be neutral. It should never, ever go negative. Never, ever, ever go negative. And the question is why? What purpose? Why is it generating a cold light? What part does it have to play in this whole thing?
So I'm playing devil's advocate here for a moment. So the sunlight hits the moon in the scientific layout of everything. Sunlight hits the moon. Is it possible that any of the moon formation, I don't know exactly what it's made out of, like they say it's like titanium and a couple of other things like that. I don't know exactly. But is it possible that hitting the moon itself could cause it to get colder?
I don't see how. Okay. I mean, it's like you got to remember what the source light is like. You're talking about converting radiation into another form of radiation.
That's a good point.
So it's like bouncing a flashlight off your wall and chilling lettuce on the reflection.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It can't be done. There's nothing we can do down here to do that. Now we can do it with a focus. We can do this with light. We can chill things with light, but you can't reflect things and chill things with light. Not when the starting point generates massive amounts of heat. You can't go that way. You can do it the other way. Again, you can make a light source. We can make a fake small moon in a lab and generates cold light. So the question is, why is the moon actually doing that?
That is interesting.
I'm glad you said that because I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks now. So awesome, man.
I'll send you, as soon as I hang up, I will send you the link to the moon temperature test that Jeffrey Grubb did.
Okay.
And if I can find the Rob Skiba one, I will too. But thank you guys. It was wonderful.
It was a lot of fun. Get some rest. Have a safe flight tomorrow and break a leg on the show.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I will.
Love you, brother. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Oh, what an awesome show, man. That was great. That was high energy. That was entertaining. That was so much fun.
That was.
Do you want to keep it going or should we
whatever you want to do.
I was thinking maybe we can take some callers for 30 minutes.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. Call number is down at the bottom, 612-398-0600.
If we could take a quick break.
We can take a quick break.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
That'll be good.
I don't think I've eaten today. I didn't eat today.
I haven't eaten today either.
Oh, you haven't eaten today either. So yeah, we'll keep it short. Let's do trying to find our video, but we've been censored on YouTube. So there's other videos that come up that have been re-uploaded this video, and that pisses me off so bad because it's our video. You know? So here it is right here, though. We'll be right back.
You're going to live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. There's the owners of Truth Frequency Radio. They believe they're communicating with entities they call them clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, Truth Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it. There's a reason they're all whacked out of their minds. They're taking DMT. And the point is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Truth Frequency Radio took the DMT. I shouldn't even get into it. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, succubus with goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. I don't want to see him kissing goblins, ingratiating goblins, in bed with a goblin. Dump it. Charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop and blood on it. Especially up to his ankles. Trump charging into a goblin's nest, some goblin vomit and slop. Goblin vomit and slop. I'm not expecting him to not get dirty slop. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. Succubus with goblins. In bed with a goblin. Kissing goblins. Ingratiating goblins. I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin. 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 I just want to catch him in bed with a goblin. Bed with a goblin. Bed with a goblin. Bed with a goblin.
What's going on? 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 Indiana Jones without Harrison Ford. What's Ghostbusters with only women? What's going on? What's going on? We have to figure out what's going on.
My fellow travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires. As we travel upon the level of time, to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we have passed beyond the veil.
right, 612-398-0600 is the call-in number right down at the bottom of the screen. We actually have 833-BTV live. We need to go ahead and make that live as well. It's a lot easier to give out. But what's going on with Mrs. Geo?
I'm actually writing people back. I've been writing people back the last 2 days. People that have been asking me at astro-owl@tfrlive.com.
Is it Astro or Astro?
Astro.
Astro. ASTRO.
Yep.
Okay.
And then dash OWL. astro-owl@tfrlive.com. And a lot of people have been writing me about birth charts and transit charts, which I also do. So keep those emails coming, and I'm writing you back as quickly as I can. So
Someone said you sound like an owl in the chat.
Who?
I'll never ever be able to get away with that ever again. It's okay. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to area code 415. 415, what's your name and what's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too. What a warm greeting. That was beautiful.
That was
How
one
are
of the
you?
best
Who is
pieces
this?
in a long time.
Oh, I'm great. I just want to tell you what an awesome show you have.
Thank
you. Thank you. Anything on your mind?
I was wondering if the Eye of Life for dogs would control seizures for dogs.
Mrs. Geo can take
Well,
that.
first of all, I'm sorry to hear that your dog's having seizures. That's got to be hard. CBD has been shown to help, especially in humans. One of the reasons why CBD is legal, they've legalized medicinal cannabis, but it has a tiny, tiny amount of THC, is because CBD primarily is what controls the seizures in a lot of people. And I know that my stepmother has epilepsy, and she uses CBD oil every single day. And she said her seizures have gone from maybe two times or 3 times a week to maybe once every 2 weeks. And so it really can help humans. I know that. And I'm sure it's probably the same for dogs. And I have actually read that in all mammals, it can help control seizures. So I think that it would probably help him. He just might need a little bit higher of a dosage than what you would give. But CBD is completely safe. It has very, very few, if any, side effects to speak of, especially in animals. If you put it in their water, then they drink it throughout the day, and thus they never drink more than they never take more than they're naturally supposed to. So they kind of it regulates their intake. And if they need more, they'll let you know by having an empty water bowl. And if they need less, they just won't drink as much. So, but yeah. How long has he been suffering from the seizures?
He started having seizures about, I want to say 6 months ago.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. How old is he?
He's 8 years old, and he's a German short-haired pointer.
Oh.
And he still acts young and everything. And
what's his name?
Quincy.
Aww. I had 2 Snickers and Skittles. I've talked about them before, and I know that they become part of our hearts.
Yeah,
and then when you watch them get sick, it's like a child getting sick. It really is. I hope that the Aya Life helps for sure. AyaLife.com is the website, ladies and gentlemen. AYALife.com, and we need to do a coupon code called Quincy. QUINCY for the Fur Baby Blend, and we'll do $10 off for the Fur Baby Blend, because we've had some other people ask us about it as well, and hopefully that will help people out there. So we'll plug that in, Quincy, QUINCY, and for anybody that needs that. But I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
Have you looked at diet? Have you looked at things like that? Is there anything that's changed?
there's not really anything that's changed. So I'm just going to try the eye of life.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Please let us know how that goes, because, like I said, I know how they're a part of our hearts, and it starts to hurt right here. I don't know if you can see me on camera, but it's I know the pain, because when I watched mine go through their things, it was pretty bad, but. Everything will be okay nonetheless. Everything, like Mark was saying, everything is predestined already. We already chose this. We already have written all this, so we're going to go through it. Anything else on your mind tonight?
That's about it. Thank you, guys. Keep it up. I love you.
Well, thank you. We love you too.
Thank you.
Take care. Oh, what a sweet caller.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
I hope Quincy's okay.
My puppies.
I hope Quincy gets better.
I miss my puppies now.
I know.
Yeah, they were
our boys.
They were part of us, yeah. So let's go to area code 873. I have this one, 872. I already have this one marked. It is our dear friend M. How are you, my dear?
Hi, guys. I'm actually really good. How are you?
Good.
Doing great.
What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, a lot actually.
You know, you
So
recently had had problems with Mikey, which was your another one of your little fur babies.
That was the other girl, Cosmos of Compassion.
Oh, that was Cosmos.
Yeah, that was Cosmos. That's right. Sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I have I have a dog too, but yeah.
Okay.
Is your dog in
I
good
haven't
health?
had to go through the trauma yet of what?
Is your dog in good health?
Oh yeah, she's doing
Okay,
great. She's old right now, but yeah, I mean, yeah. Thankfully, I haven't had to go through like a trauma of losing a pet yet, but yeah.
So what's on your mind tonight? Have you been hitting hyperspace? Have you been journeying deep, and you've come back with some gnosis to share with us?
Actually, I recently have not been drinking much ayahuasca, but I hope I'm not boring everybody with like all the continuation of like, you know, everything that I keep calling in with, everything I've been going through. But actually, Chris, I know that you had brought up a few things, you know, on your last couple shows, like going back to like the spiders you guys were pulling off, and then like the lumps people feel, and you know, just like the skin manifestations, either moles or rashes, psoriasis. Going back to all that, actually, I wanted to talk about like how to cure all this really quickly.
Please do.
So like you, like with the lumps, I know you've asked a couple guests you guys have had on the show about that. So one thing I've actually found out is you can like put your hand on it, right, and like try to wherever you are having problems like that, even on Shuri's shoulder or like the lumps, put your hand on it and try to like get yourself into a state of meditation, or even do it like while you're on DMT, to try to find out like actually what trauma that's from. Because like, you know, when you do ayahuasca, like you go back into your memories, back to like things that happened, and you know, things that you either know are traumas or things you didn't realize were traumas, like that memory plays back and you're supposed to heal from it. And eventually then that physical like manifestation of that goes away. Well, that's in theory what's supposed to happen. So that's just a tip I had, is maybe like with Shuri's shoulder or the lumps, try to like find the memory or the trauma that happened. And this could either be like real or like fake, like kind of like the Jasmine dream, if I could bring that up.
Yeah, for sure.
Like hold that in your mind. Yeah, right. Hold that in your mind's eye, like that whole, like play it like a video, or you can turn them into like just pictures. And then if you flip that picture over, I mean, you can or you don't have to, but if you flip the picture over, there should usually be like a spider behind it, or like some kind of monster that's like, oh, don't go there, like, right, like don't mess with that memory. And this is going back to the attachment points, but you burn that with like purple fire.
Purple fire.
And you have to use purple. So it's purple. It's actually a lot easier, like while you're in ayahuasca. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just making sure I heard you correctly, because I'm going to try to implement some of these methods. Because I have noticed a few weird things happening on my skin, and I don't know what to make of them, but I just figure it's just part of the journey. But what do you think? What do you think these things are? Like, where do they originate?
I think that you know where they originate from. Remember the story of like the Great War that like played through your mind? Well, I've seen it too. Kind of like they manifest, like these things are like reptilians, right? Or I don't know, but they play this story for you where like they came through like some kind of portal, and like the Great War is kind of like on, you know, like humans on Earth, especially organic consciousness, we get infested, I think, a lot more than like the regular NPC, just because like they're not as interesting. Honestly, I think that they've always been a problem in this game. It's definitely gotten worse lately. But other than that, I don't know. But you can speculate all the time. Yeah, like all day on it.
Fair enough. So, I would say there's some kind of implanted technology, or, you know, something like that's popping up. It has been interesting. So, you know, forgive me for mistaking you with the other caller. I thought it was you that called in last time. So, from what I remember, we haven't spoken to you in a while, if that's the case. And I may have been confused in other calls that it was you. So, how has 2020 been for you? What's the journey been like?
Well, it's been kind of tough. And wait, Chris, I called in the last time you guys opened up the phone lines.
Oh, you were.
She did call in.
Oh, you did call in. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Things are just kind of getting a little bit jumbled up. You sound kind of down today. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, I'm just tired. I think I'm like 2 hours ahead of you guys, but I only caught like the tail end of your show with the last person, and so I'm kind of sad I missed the whole show almost, but I'll go back and watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So, anything else on your mind?
No, I wanted to really bring up the fact about like healing these like traumas, or like those, like honestly the things like the Jasmine dream, which even you shared, you know, online. Just how to take care of that kind of stuff is like you burn that with purple fire. Mm-hmm.
I had a really interesting dream the other night, and maybe you can help shed some light on this. So I've got a speeding ticket that I'm dealing with, and I usually get them dismissed, no problem. But this one's like out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm asking myself, maybe I should just not pay the fine. But they have this thing where you can pay a fine, and then they'll dismiss it like a year later or something like that. But I had a dream that the judge was Ron Paul, and he was wearing, you know, what triggered this is he was wearing a purple robe in this dream. And I don't remember the outcome of it, but I'm asking myself now, maybe I should fight it a little bit, you know? I mean, that seems like a good sign. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Fight it. Don't just pay the fine.
Okay. It's been very...
Yeah, I also, I think it... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. There's a little delay between the phones, so if we're jumping all over, it's because of that. But no, go ahead.
I was going to say it might even be like part of the attachment points, you know, because like that's how they like attach harder to you, or like if they see they're detaching, then these entities or whatever they are, they give you like dreams like that, and then they use that as an attachment. So like if you can hold that like mental image of him in your mind, like what you saw, what that dream was, and then again burn it with the purple fire, that might just be like the attachment got you in trouble. And it's like, because it's detaching from you, it's like scrambling and trying to attach in more places, but a lot lighter, if that makes sense. I mean, that's just what I think is happening, and it's one of my theories, because what started happening for me with like the moles is I had huge ones, and when I took care of those, yeah, and don't laugh at me for doing this, but the way you actually kill moles or kill skin tags or whatever is you can slather them in like blue ink.
Blue
and
ink.
they will come
Okay.
off. Blue ink, but it has to be the brand Beak. Those pens like work the best. The blue ones. Yeah, I just
Interesting. I wonder if there's
absolutely
something
have
in
been
that
destroying
particular
pens.
type of ink that does that. What was the brand again?
Yeah. Beak.
Oh,
Bic.
Those are the
Bic.
best.
B-I-C.
Like they're the strong.
Okay.
Oh, Bic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the way you
Yeah,
say it better
so-
though.
But that's how they
You could
call it
try
in the
that.
commercials. Beak.
Beak. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I've always called it Bic. But I'm originally from Texas though, so we always have that southern drawl.
Bic.
Like when we played that Alex Jones things earlier. He's like, they're taking the DMT. That DMT.
So there it'd be. Can you hand me one of those Bic pens?
Those Bic pens, yeah. Awesome.
Anyway.
And,
Yeah, honestly, it works. Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to call into and talk about, is because you asked last time seriously, like how to take care of, all of these like attachment points. Well, that's how. Yes, obviously you do have to find the primary attachment point, which again it's correlated to a trauma, either fake or real, which is really interesting because it could have been something that happened to you when you were either really young, and that's being used against you, like that memory, but it's probably going to be guarded, right, by like some really scary snake or spider, again, some kind of monster, and then you have to find that memory. So it's like a double aspected approach to this, right? You have to find like the traumatic memory or even the fake dream, or like, I don't know, like weird visions, like one that I am comfortable sharing, and this is kind of weird, but like I would get like flashes of myself like with like a cut off limb, and it's like bleeding, right? Like things like that, like that's trying to scare me. And then there was like a mole corresponding to that, like on my thigh. And I took care of that. It popped off, yeah. And how the moles just scab over, or freckles, like all of this. It's all connected to stuff like that, like scary dreams. So that's why even like doing the DMT and then dealing with those traumas, and and then you could burn them with purple fire, like while you're either in a state of meditation and can find them, or if you want the quicker route to find the traumas, like DMT, but you got to burn them with a purple fire to ensure you don't have to keep going back and revisiting like that thing. Because I know there's things like once I want to deal with them, like I've dealt with them. And like one other thing I want to share is very recently, I had a really bad and painful bunion actually on my right foot, and I really suspected that was also like another attachment point. And so because I'm pretty well practiced in this now from doing it, like I kind of put my hand over it. I'm like, okay, like what the hell trauma like is this thing from? And it eventually it played through my mind, and I'm like, oh, it's that thing that happened. There was this guy that like was interested in me. I denied him, and then he like really like tried to mess with my life, and it was from that, and like that whole like a scene like played through my head of the past, and I just decided like I'm freaking done with this. Like I'm over that whole thing. I'm not gonna let that past experience affect me. And what happened is the bunion like popped. It sounds crazy, but I had a bunion pop.
So it
So
manifested.
that's what I wanted to really talk about. I swear to God, all these traumas that you guys have been on the air for years and talking about how to heal from this, or how to like when you're on DMT or on psychedelics, how to like get into those like core traumas and treat them right. But you got to burn them with the purple fire, and you got to take care of the physical aspect of it as well, even if that's like seeing a doctor. And I know last time we talked about tumors, if you got really, really deeply ingrained traumas, that's how they'll manifest, is like in the tumors we talked about, or like all inner like organ type of issues or growth. And yeah, you might have to see a doctor to have those removed, and then hopefully like you're healed from that.
Well said. We'll give it a try.
Yeah, we'll give that a try for sure. So
Cool. We really appreciate it, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Maybe also with like Cherie's shoulder, like maybe put your hands over it and like try to get yourself into such a relaxed state that it'll just come to you. Like what is Cherie carrying, or on her back? Because I feel so bad for Cherie.
Chris is about to start rolling his eyes.
She's not carrying anything at all. I'm not even going there.
Yeah, he's not even. No.
Because I've tried. I'm like, look, these are all attachments. You got to get rid of them. And she's like, no, I like my attachments.
Well, I was
like,
literally
okay.
just about to interrupt her and say, well, my shoulder's feeling a lot better now that it's been actually fixed. I think, I'm looking forward to this big move for us, because it's going to be this life-changing event that kind of starts a new chapter for me. And so along with that, I'm just kind of leaving here all of those attachments and things like that may be weighing me down and causing a lot of my problems. So, thank you for pointing that out. So, but yeah, I
didn't say it, so you can't blame me.
Well, what about the lumps on your head? Let's talk about the lumps on Chris's head.
The lumps on my head are from you smacking me in the head. Yeah, with the rolling pin.
I do not.
No,
She does it while I'm sleeping. She comes in and just. I'm pretty sure she spits in my coffee too.
No.
I'm just teasing.
He's awful, you guys.
So anything else? Then we got to get to a couple more callers, but take us
Oh
away.
yeah, no, that's just all I wanted to share. And also, it just, if you have it physically like fixed, like enough time, sometimes like that attachment point, like that entity that's attached to you just gives up on that place. So that also happens. But yeah, I agree with Cherie that it's just very important to decide, like, I'm moving on past this, or just leaving whatever is affecting you in the past, and then just the physical manifestation should slowly heal. So
yeah,
awesome. We love you, Em. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks for calling in, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Aw, she's so sweet.
She is so sweet.
I thought she was Cosmos, but I guess not. I think we took both of their calls at the same time.
Yeah, it was like one back to back.
I got to go back and listen. The problem is we take calls at the end of the show, and I'm so tired.
Yeah, me too.
It all runs together. We'll take a couple of more, and then we will wrap it up. We'll go to area code 925. 925, what's your name and what's on your mind?
Hey, it's my name is Joshua. I'm kicking at Edwards in the chat.
Oh, hi, Joshua.
Hey, how are you? Are you on speakerphone by any chance? Because we can. It's a little difficult to hear you.
Hold on 1 second. Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me better?
Much better. All right, take us away.
Okay, perfect. All right. But yeah, hey, don't worry, I have a lumpy head too.
You also have a wife.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, how long have you been married?
Oh, let's see, 3 years now.
Yep.
So what's on your mind tonight besides lumps?
Well, so it was a great show, and actually some thoughts that came to mind through the show. You were, I know you were joking about flat earthers seeing water as being flat, but it makes you sort of think about oceans and seas and whatnot. Like, if the ocean is supposed to wrap all the way around the world, how's water supposed to be a level if it's going to wrap around the world?
That's true. That is definitely true. I'm trying to find that meme. I know I sent it to Mark here. Here it is. I'll put it up on the screen. Optimist, the glass is half full. Pessimist, the glass is half empty. Flat earther, water is always level. There you go. No, I agree with you. That's one of the anomalies that we don't really consider. And, science has its own explanations. The problem is that we have to jump through 50 million hoops to get to science's explanation. And really these kind of conclusions, whether true or not, is the first logical step. And in the scientific method, in my opinion, you have to go with what's most logical first and foremost. And then if you can disprove what's most logical, then you can start jumping through all kinds of hoops like that. But it seems like when it comes to the topic of the Earth, it's completely and totally backwards. You have to go through the most complicated solution first. Then you have to go to the simplest explanation.
Yeah, it's kind of sad where, as far as this particular subject, where science stands. I mean, some people would say they're flat wrong, or
Don't drop the ball. Stay on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yep.
But yeah, another thing that came to mind. So you guys were talking about essentially with, would you want to go back and change things? And it made me think maybe it's to sort of tie in with what you speak about with virtual reality and us going into the machine and living out essentially this virtual life. It just kind of makes me think that it really ties into how if we go in and then we come back out and we analyze what our playthrough was, then, it's almost like a completionist gamer where, like, if you want to get like 100% achievements, blah, 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 you would go through, you would play the game once, come back out, and then see, okay, if I pull on this thread, if I do this thing just right, okay, let's play through again, see if I can get 100% achievement, achieve my complete goal at the end.
Yep. Well said.
Exactly.
It's really all a matter of perspective, in my opinion, on how we choose to look at this matrix. And I've, in my journey, I don't know how long you've been watching the show, but over the last 5 years, there's been a lot of changes in my own perspective based on the journey about what this thing is. Is it a prison?
Yes.
Is it a matrix? Is it a place of learning, like Mark said? Is it just something fun to do because we had nothing better to do, so we decided to plug ourselves into this matrix? Matrix. Could it be life extension technology? I mean, if we're infinite beings, we may not necessarily be infinite, but if we can come into a machine and live 100,000 lifetimes, we might as well be infinite at that point. Could it be a system like that where outside in the real world 15 minutes has gone by and here an entire lifetime has gone by? So we are actually extending our lives. Could this be a consciousness transfer machine where our consciousness was put in here as it's being transferred somewhere else? There's so many different questions, and I think it all depends on what is inside of us at that particular time. If we are filled with turmoil and fear, we're going to see this as a prison. We're going to see it as something like that. If we're balanced, I think we're going to see it as a place of learning or as a fun experience. And if there's anything I've learned over the past couple of years is that I have not been having nearly as much fun as I should, and I've been taking this thing way, way, way too seriously. How do you feel about that?
I would agree. Okay, so I mean, they say you only live life once, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Obviously, me personally, I've had dreams that I can't explain. Like I've done in those dreams things that I have a really hard time thinking that I could imagine. So I have just this gut feeling to it that it's a memory of past life, and I don't know, it's unnerving. But anyways, like one way or another, you have to make what you're doing count, I feel. Whether you're having a good time with something, have the best time. Whether you're getting deep into the gnosis, get the absolute most minute gnosis out of it, just simply because so much can tie back into it later on, and just revelations hit so much later in life just from living things to the fullest.
That is actually very profound because it really echoes my own journey in the sense that everything has been episodic. I mean, I'm even going back to experiences I had 10 years ago and finding new meaning and connecting those dots. And it's those small experiences that all start to make up the whole. But at the time of the experience, you don't really get it at the time. But later, I mean, it could be 10 years later, 20 years later, all of a sudden you get that, aha, I see how this is all connected. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think what you said was really, really profound.
Yeah, it's amazing once you start seeing the network of just all the threads that tie together to really create essentially the tapestry of what life becomes.
And it's beautiful. It really is. It's what we make of it. If we want destruction and chaos, I remember there was a time I was always looking for the end of the world. Always. Mm-hmm. Around every corner, Elenin, 2012, the Illuminati, the apocalypse. I mean, going all the way back to like 2002, 2003. I remember listening to Coast to Coast, and they would have the guests on, it's end times prophecies. Here's signs of the end times. And I'm thinking, ooh, it's about to end. It's about to end. But it was my own self I wasn't happy with life at the time. I was looking for an escape and all of that. But now my perspective is totally different, and I'm looking really forward to the future. I'm looking forward to all the people we're going to meet, all the fun we're going to have, and the rest of the journey. And I'm getting sadder as the journey progresses because I'm realizing that the journey is ending. I mean, it's not ending right now, but I've come so far in the journey that I was in such a hurry to get here that I had forgotten to enjoy getting here. And so now the goal is for the second part of the journey, enjoy the rest of it as much as possible. I think that's ultimately what we can do. We appreciate the call. Anything else on your mind?
Just getting back to what you were saying, I can definitely agree with that. I would also say that once you get to the end of the journey, get outside the matrix, you can also end up enjoying life to the fullest out there, whatever it may be.
That's true. That's
is
true.
true.
I often wonder if this is like in the Matrix movie where Keanu Reeves goes in and he learns kung fu and comes out and he's like, whoa, I know kung fu.
I know kung fu.
Yeah. And if we're going to come out of this machine and go, oh, okay, well, I've acquired all these skills now.
So, okay, previous shows, I remember somebody mentioning that not you guys, but somebody that you had on remembered the outside as basically being in a state of war. And I sometimes wonder if, well, kind of like what you were saying, if this is essentially a matrix to add on to one's life of, okay, so now I'm trained in all of these skills, and if I'm sent out against, I don't know, whatever problem or enemy or whatever, now I have a lifetime of skills behind me. And I hope that's not true, because I'm a lover, not a fighter. Let me put it that way. But, it makes you wonder.
It does. That was Matt Simon who was talking about that, and it very well could be. It could be that we've come in here to train, and maybe that's what it is. So awesome insight, man. I greatly appreciate it. Definitely keep in touch and call back in whenever we open the phone lines, because I'd love to hear more from you.
Most certainly.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple more callers on the line, but I can tell Mrs. Gio's getting tired. I'm getting tired as well. I have cat hair in my freaking nose, and
only if you're getting tired.
Well, I'm getting cat hair in my nose, and I've been like stopping the thing and like scratching my nose, and I don't think I can take any more of it. They're shedding. I don't know why they're shedding.
I think they're getting ready to move to wherever
we're
moving
their winter
to.
coat. Oh, when we get down there, it's gonna be total
Cat hair
everywhere.
it's gonna be like
I
a
went out
cat hair apocalypse.
Yeah, I went the other day to somewhere and I looked down on my shirt and I'm like, yep, it's begun. It has begun. But life wouldn't be the same.
No,
without
it
our
wouldn't.
fur babies. We love our fur babies.
I don't regret for a second ever getting them.
I don't either. Now that I have them, but I don't know. It's kind of freer without.
Would you have wished that we had gotten them a year later or something like that? Or
yeah, but they were ready now, so we had to get them at the time. But we're about to make a big cross country move. All our stuff is going to be in storage for a month.
We could take off,
go anywhere we want
2 months.
because there's no rent to pay, and that's the big thing. You've got rent, you've got electricity, you've got all this stuff. So whenever you take off, you have to account. Okay, I've got to pay rent, I've got to pay electricity, I got to pay all this stuff. If you don't have that, then you're free to go literally anywhere you want for a month, as long as you're keeping your spending at the same of what your rental and electricity and everything is.
True.
It's all balances out aside from the transportation of getting there. I found round trip tickets to Paris for $330.
I know. And well, they would probably love France. They'd be like, oui, I taste the mice. I put out the cheese and the mice come, and then I catch them and eat them. Then I eat the cheese and I get exposed.
Well, I got a meme for that.
If you try to pronounce Le Mao, you sound like a French cat.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be, especially those fur babies out there. Don't forget, the coupon code is Quincy. $10 off of the fur baby blend. And for your little guys out there. And QUINCY, all lowercase? Is that what you put it in as?
Yes.
Okay. All lowercase. And so we're going to send lots of really good healing energy to Quincy.
Yeah.
And hopefully he gets over his seizures very, very, very quickly. So
lots of love to you, Quincy.
Yes, for sure. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you even further
beyond the veil.